Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about What If villain Deku had quirks part 1. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Lindz from 𝐴𝐿3. So let's start the video. Hey, you're coming over this weekend, right? Yes, I already promised you I would. I can't wait. I'm bringing the cheesy movies for us to watch. Hahaha, now I'm not so sure about that. The last time you did that we ended up crying all night. You're on snack duty this time. No, come on. Don't take away my movie privileges. Izuku Midoriya slowly leans back, peeking out the corner of his locker door and watches the two girls laughing at each other as they walk past him. If I give you another chance, you can't bring any tear-jerkers, you hear me? I already cried enough after my midterms. I don't need to cry again until finals. Hahaha, okay, I'll only bring one. It must be nice. Izuku moves his eyes forward and finishes grabbing what he needs out of his locker. He shoves it inside of his backpack before closing the door, attaching his lock. He gives it a spin before he shrugs his backpack on, keeping his head lowered as he wanders through the halls. It was only 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so that meant the room would be empty. There isn't another class until 3, so Izuku had a full 2 hours to be by himself and concentrate. He moves through the crowds like a leaf in the wind, shifting and breezing past the bodies heading the opposite direction. The class must have just gotten out or something, Izuku thinks to himself. There's normally never this many people when he's going through this hallway. Izuku finally makes it to his destination, room 101 in the West Building. It took him a bit longer than normal to make it here, but the classroom was completely empty, so he didn't complain that much about it. Izuku heads inside and closes the door behind him. He walks down to the front of the classroom and heads straight over to the grand piano next to the window. Petunia was her name. She has been here longer than Izuku, longer than most of the professors who taught here at this college has been. She was a real beauty, and probably Izuku's only friend. Izuku takes his backpack off and places it on the floor next to the stool. He sits down and lifts up the cover, wiggling his fingers around a bit in the air. Hello Petunia, did you miss me? He plays a light tune, letting his fingers dance across the keys as he warms up. Really? Me too. Ready to have some fun. Izuku takes a deep breath and closes his eyes. He begins to press into the keys with purpose, letting the music inside of him take shape and come alive. He's been able to play with his eyes closed for years now, and thanks to his photographic memory and sharp ears, it was easy for Izuku to play back any song that he could think about. He started with something deep and sorrowful at first. He played away his frustrations of the day, of the week, everything that he's been holding back from saying out loud, and Petunia took it all for him. She always did, so kind, so gentle, accept all of his emotions regardless of what they were, and in return would bless him with this music. Once one song ended, another would begin. Not a single break happening between the two. The keys would change and the shift would happen instantly. Izuku often got lost playing the piano like this. Sometimes if he wasn't careful, he could very well play until the first students started to trickle into the classroom for their next class. It's happened to him before, and Izuku embarrassingly ducked his head down and ran out of here. He hadn't come back for a week straight, afraid of risking it happening again, but now he has a timer on his phone to remind him. Izuku had only just begun though, and he had no plans on stopping so early, so he played and played, letting his fingers dance, allowing the music to take a hold of him, that is until he felt a shake. Izuku's green eyes snapped open and he looked around. Hello, there's no response. No one was here. That was weird. He swore he felt something shake underneath his feet. He starts playing slowly, more cautiously as he glances out of the window. It looks like any other normal Wednesday afternoon. He gets back into his music and closes his eyes, allowing it to possess him again. He never liked all the music lessons that his mother would force him to go to every Monday and Friday after school when he was younger, preferring to hang out with his friends instead. When he had friends, but he's grateful for them now. Izuku didn't know any other way that could relax him as much as playing a song BOOM. Izuku definitely feels that shake, along with hearing something loud explode in the distance. His piano playing comes to a halt and he stands up, heart racing inside of his chest. What was that? He mumbles. He walks over towards the window and looks down on the outside. He saw students downstairs, all of them looking like ants from being so high up, and they all looked so far. They were getting harder for him to make out. They were all running away. Running where? And from what? Izuku looks up and stares at the fire alarm that's in every one of the classrooms. It's not going off, so it can't be a fire. Was this an exercise or something? I don't know what's happening. Izuku decides to do what he always does whenever he's confused. He goes for his phone to search on the internet. He didn't know if anything was happening or not, but if it was serious, someone would have posted something on the school forum, right? Izuku digs inside of his phone and sits back on his stool. He unlocks it and taps his college app. waiting for the darn thing to open up. He swears that ever since he got that update it's been working slower and slower. Quickly, we have to run away. Izuku's head snaps up. Phone forgotten. He walks over towards the door and peeks out of the small window. A bunch of people just ran past him and Izuku has a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach. He opens up the door and looks around. No one else is running down the halls anymore. That has to be a bad sign. Izuku should really learn to stop talking to himself. The ground shook. There was an explosion, and a bunch of people ran by the classroom yelling to run away. All those pointed to something bad happening, right? Izuku turns around and heads back into the class. He picks up his backpack and puts it on before leaving the room, heading the way he thinks he saw the others went. If there was something that they knew that he didn't, Izuku wasn't about to question it. He checks his phone again and unlocks it, the app finally loading up correctly. Izuku sighs out in relief as he checks the forum post. It's moving by so quickly as students make new posts rapidly all about the same thing. Izuku's eyes scan through it as quickly as he can. But before he can even process what is happening, another explosion happens. Right next to him. Maybe that's a bit too exaggerated, but Izuku didn't know how else to explain it. He felt the heat of the flames. He was pushed back by the force and landed roughly on the ground, and his ears were ringing from the sound. His phone flew out of his hand somewhere, but Izuku couldn't look for it. He could barely even see. All he could hear was a ringing in his ears as he tried to pick himself up. His vision was completely split and everything looked slanted. He might have a concussion right now. It would be best to stay down and wait for someone to come. He knows that. He should listen to himself, but something inside of him was screaming out loudly that he had to get up and move. He was in danger right now. His instincts kicked in and Izuku slowly started pushing himself off the ground. He gags a little bit, the smoke filling up his lungs. He thinks he is about to throw up, but nothing comes up. Izuku turns his head to the side and looks at where the explosion came from. The hallway in front of him was no longer there. The walls were cracked and on fire, black smoke rising in the air like crazy. Izuku squeezes his eyes shut tightly and opens his eyes back up. His vision gets a little bit better and he oh hell, is that a body right there? In the smoke. That's a body, right? No, that person can't be alive. Those flames were getting too close and the floor looked like it was about to give in at any moment. Izuku should run away and protect himself. There was no need to save a person who he didn't know, who wasn't going to survive. Izuku coughs out as he picks himself up. His legs are shaking and he takes a step back, turning around. If that was him, dang it. Izuku coughs out. He lifts up his shirt and covers his nose, stumbling to make his way to where the danger is. There was a body on the floor, a man, and if Izuku didn't start pulling him back he would have fallen down as the ground crumbled right where he used to be. Izuku groans and yells out loudly, not caring about the sounds that are escaping him. His everything hurts so much right now and it's not like anyone could hear him over the fire burning. Izuku doesn't know what to do. It would be suicide to stay inside of a burning building, but there's no way he could carry this guy down the stairs and the other exit. Besides, weren't the people running away from the other direction? He was trapped here, they both were. Izuku didn't really have a choice other than to drag the unconscious man back to room 101. It was a struggle opening the door, and he might have dropped him once or twice, but he was able to pull him inside safely. Izuku collapses on the floor and rolls around, gasping for air. The smoke hadn't gotten in here yet, and the windows in the classroom were open, so he was breathing fresh air right now. He took a moment to catch his breath and laid there, entire body aching, wondering what in the world was going on. On his phone, which he abandoned so calling for help wasn't an option anymore, but on his phone people were posting up how there was an attack at their school. A villain attack. Is that what all of this was? Why today? Why here? Why now? Izuku groans to himself as he curls up into a ball. He can't handle this. He can't. He's just a man. Why is the world like this? GRRNG. Izuku's eyes open up. He turns around, remembering the guy he saved. Thank goodness he was still alive. Izuku moves over towards him and looks down at him. The guy looked around his age, a student. He was bleeding from his head and he didn't look all that good. Izuku looks over at him. Why was he wearing such a strange outfit? It takes a second for two and two to come together. Izuku blames it on the trauma he's experiencing right now, but he's not able to make sense of things until he hears someone yelling out loudly. Where did you go, Hero Shadow? Are you running away and hiding? A shiver runs down Izuku's spine. He doesn't need to see the person yelling to know that they're a bad guy, a villain. Then this must be. Izuku looks back down at the man. He's a hero, isn't he? Izuku has mixed feelings right now, but he quickly shoves them down. What he knows right now is that there is a villain looking for the hero right now, and if he comes in here and finds them, that's the end for both of them. Izuku tries to think quickly on his feet and looks around. The supply closet. Would he think to look there? A villain causing this much destruction wasn't going to stop inside of every classroom and open every door, was he? It was their only option. Izuku limps over there and claws at the door. Fear invades his system as he can't get it open, thinking that it was locked and his life was gone, but that was only panic. It was a push, not pull. The door swings open and Izuku grunts as he drags the hero inside of it. He drops his backpack and looks around, staring at the grand piano. "Petunia, please protect us," Izuku mumbles. He runs over to her, pushing her with all her might in front of the door. It would look too suspicious if she was keeping the door closed, but if he pushed her in front of the door it kind of hid the handle. Izuku feels tears welling up in his eyes. His heart is racing as he tries to hurry, scared that at any moment now that door will explode open and he'll be dead. Izuku moves the stool over in front of her and closes the lid down, more like slams it. He has no time to worry and simply flinches instead before he grabs his bag and runs towards the door, slamming it behind him. It's pitch dark in the room. Izuku is too afraid to turn on the light. His breathing is heavy and panting, invading into his system. Another groan escapes out of the man and once again, Izuku remembers the hero. He scoots back and crawls around the floor, trying to find his body. His hand moves over something warm, and he feels a heart beating. Izuku takes a deep breath in and out, trying to match his breathing to the heart. It wasn't going fast and frantic like his own heart. It was actually at a soothing pace. How was the hero doing? Izuku wasn't a medic and he couldn't remember if he was hurt anywhere on his body. Only his head was bleeding, so he was knocked out. Was he in the middle of that explosion? If that hit him at full blast, Izuku doesn't know if he was going to wake up or not. He couldn't abandon him now that he knew he was alive, but the fire in the building was spreading. They'd die regardless if they just waited here and boom. There's an explosion in the room. Izuku's eyes widen as his entire body begins to tremble. It was close. It was so close. The tears he was holding back finally rolled down his cheeks, but he couldn't cry out. The slightest noise might alert the villain. Izuku holds his breath as he waits and listens. It's quiet for a minute before he hears footsteps. Come out, wherever you are, hero. Do you think you can stop me? Silence. It's dead silent. All of a sudden he can hear another explosion accompanied by the off-key notes of a piano. Petunia. Izuku buries his head down into the hero's chest as he cries. This is it. This is the end. He's found them. He'll capture them and then kill them, and Izuku didn't want to die. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die. He doesn't die. He doesn't know how much time passes by, but it's dead silent in the room. Izuku looks up, his tears drying as he stares at the only light coming into the storage closet from the crack underneath the door. He crawls over towards it slowly and leans his ear against the wood. Nothing. Does he dare? What if he was standing outside right now? Would it really matter? He'd still die no matter what. Izuku's hand shakes as he reaches for the handle and pulls the door open. He peeks outside, but there's no one around. Just a hole in the wall and Petunia. No, she was smashed into tiny pieces, parts of her still on fire. That villain. What did a piano ever do to him? What the hell was wrong with him? Izuku gasps as he closes the door back. He was alive right now. He likes to believe thanks to her, but she was gone. Petunia. He can't waste this life she gave him. Izuku sniffs and rubs his eyes. He's alive because of her, so he won't die now. She won't have died in vain. The villain must have moved on to look for the hero, so turning the light on now has to be an okay thing to do, right? Izuku reaches for the light switch and turns it on. The light blinds him for a second, but his eyes quickly adjust. He makes his way over towards the hero again and looks at him. You're fine, right? I don't see any injuries, any bleeding, just a few scrapes and bruises. Izuku didn't know what type of hero this man was, but he couldn't have been a good one. There were cuts and scorch marks on his uniform, but overall he didn't see any big red stains leaking anywhere. The only blood leaking was from his head. Izuku takes off his sweater and dabs it against the hero's forehead. He cleans off the blood on him and looks over at his backpack. I have water. Izuku reaches for it and unzips it, taking out his bottle of water. It was half full. That was all right. He wets a part of his sweater and wipes away the dirt and blood off of the man. He wasn't bleeding anymore. It was still an open cut though, right on his forehead. That couldn't have caused him to pass out. It must have been when he landed on the floor. Sir, it would be really nice if you could wake up right now. Please, wake up. Izuku didn't want to shake him, but he didn't want to die either. He tried patting his cheek a bit, then slapping him gently. His face scrunched together and he moaned out at that, but no movement. Izuku looks over at the water bottle. He still has some left. He holds it over the hero's head and takes a deep breath. Sorry about this. He tilts it over and pours it on his face, careful not to get it near his nose or mouth. The last thing he wanted to do was kill the hero by drowning him. He only wanted for him to wake up. Izuku waits to see what happened, but nothing does. Dang it. I don't know what to do. Izuku mumbles. There weren't a lot of choices for him. If he stayed here, he died, without question. If he left, there was a chance. Sure, it was a small chance with a lunatic villain on the loose, but it was still a chance. It would be a bigger chance if he abandoned the hero. And why shouldn't he? He obviously wasn't doing his job correctly protecting the innocent. This is all his fault, to be honest. If he didn't want to die, he wouldn't have been knocked out, and Izuku sure as hell doesn't want to die right now. Izuku sighs out as he picks up his sweater. He cleans off the hero's face, drying it off before getting back up. The ringing in his ear was gone, and his body was slowly not shaking anymore. Sir, you are lucky as hell. Izuku is going to curse him and bring him down to hell though if he becomes his downfall. The young college student tries picking up the hero, which is a terribly complicated thing to do. Izuku wasn't all muscle and this guy seemed to be just that. He was finally able to maneuver him until he was hanging on his back, feet dragging on the ground a little as Izuku held onto his arms. Alright, this isn't working. Izuku clenches his teeth tightly and jumps up. He stretches his hands back and grabs the hero's legs, holding him up. His arms were dangling over his shoulders and smacked at his chest. But this was much better than last time. Wish us luck, sir. Izuku grunts as he takes a step forward. He wishes he would have done this after he opened up the damn door. But after a while he's finally able to get it. Izuku leaves his things behind and says his farewells to Petunia as he heads towards the open wall in the room. He forgot that it was going to be smoky and wished he would have looked for something he could have worn as a mask in the supply closet. But it was too late now. Izuku headed away from the smoke and down the other hallway. He was careful not to drag his feet and always peeked around the corners before hurrying as fast as he could, carrying a body. Izuku, you can do this. You can totally do this. This will probably be the hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life. But once you do it, then everything should be easy. Tests? No problem. Finals? Midterms? Piece of cake. The future. I survived a near-death experience carrying an unconscious hero on my back while a deranged villain tries to look for him. What can the future possibly throw at me after that? Shut up, Izuku. Stop talking to yourself. Izuku bites down at his bottom lip. He's able to make it to the emergency staircase with no problem. And luckily for him, it was one of those push kind of doors. Unfortunately, he was 5 stories high. Hero, it would be a really nice thing for you to wake up now. Izuku waits for a response. He receives nothing. Okay, don't get mad at me if I suddenly drop you though. It was hard walking around with him on his back. It was completely insane trying to carry him down the stairs on his back. Izuku became winded after the first flight and swore that he would start working out after this. He was never going to imagine himself in this type of situation again. But if he ever needed to carry his mother to safety, that was not going to happen. Izuku is only able to go down 2 flights before he gets winded and has to take a break. He leans against the wall and slides down on it, gently putting the hero down before he sits next to him, trying to catch his breath. You should really cut down on the snacks. You don't look heavy, but you weigh a ton. This would be a lot easier if our bodies were switched. Izuku turns to the side to check on him. He looked better without all that blood and dirt covering his skin. He wasn't pale, but there was color in his cheeks. All good signs, right? Because he's going to be pissed if he tried saving this hero for him to only die at the end. Please be alright. Izuku reaches out and brushes his hair away from his face. He was a strange-looking hero, or well, man, who had 2 different colored hair like this. It was split right down in the middle, half white and half red. Not to mention that scar. He must have been in a terrible battle. Izuku brushes his fingers over it, feeling the dead skin. 𝐻𝐸's eyes tighten for a little bit as he drops his hand. Izuku hugs his knees to his chest and buries his head down. He takes several breaths in and out, blocking the world around him as he tries to chase away his dark thoughts. He can do this. He can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Izuku gets back up when he feels he rested enough. The fire alarms all of a sudden start going off in the school, and it shocked him. He jumps up and looks around, hearing a loud blaring noise and lights flashing. You're a little late there, he grumbles before picking up the hero again. Maybe this was a good thing though. Hopefully this would distract the villain, or hide the noises Izuku might be making right now. He makes his way down the stairwell, taking 1 step at a time. By the time he finally makes it to the bottom, Izuku is ready to give up. But he's come so far already. He's almost there. As soon as he leaves these doors, all he'll have to do is walk down the hallway and there will be the exit, no more than 20 or so steps in front of him. Izuku gathers up whatever hidden strength he has inside of him and pushes the door open. He peeks out, looking both ways, and spots his prize. Without a moment's hesitation, he heads straight for it. It's right there. He's almost there. They've almost made it. He could see people on the outside, he could hear them, or at least his imagination could. As soon as he revealed himself, someone could come and help him and then found you. He's dead. Izuku doesn't see the point of taking another step forward. He limps as he turns around, seeing a villain head straight for him. Every step he takes sparks and his hands seem to be smoking. Izuku was about to die right now. There are still a lot of things that he wanted to do. He takes a step back, and another, because even though he's accepted death, there's no way he can face it with courage. Why isn't the villain ending this all right now? Why isn't he ending their life? Because he's crazy, that's why. He probably wants to play with them a little bit, torture them, and then, poof. Oh well, at least he tried. Izuku went down fighting, not like a coward. Wait a second. All the villain wanted was the hero. If Izuku drops him and makes a run for it, could he? Izuku feels his hands slipping a little bit. He could do it. There was a chance. The villain was looking all this time for the hero, not him. He could do it. He could do it. Freedom was no more than 10 steps away. If he ran fast enough, he might escape the explosion. He could live. I'll see you soon, Izuku whimpers to himself. At least he'll be able to see him. In the afterlife. You're mine now. Izuku closes his eyes and accepts his fate. He hears something loud, but it isn't the sound of an explosion. He thought death would be instant and hurt, but this one was long and prolonging. Put me down. Izuku flutters his eyes open. That didn't sound like the villain's voice. Huh, put me down. Izuku obeys orders and drops his hands. The hero hanging on him falls down, but he doesn't land on his ass. He stands up on his feet with his arm outstretched. Izuku can't believe what he's seeing in front of him. The whole hallway seemed to be imprisoned in ice, and the villain was encased in it as well. He was not moving, mouth wide open and body hunched over as he was getting ready to attack. Get out of here, quickly. The hero orders him. Izuku has 1,000 things to say at this moment. What was he thinking talking to him like that? Where was his thank you? He was the one who saved him, remember. But he doesn't care. Izuku turns around and starts heading towards the exit. He runs out of the front door and doesn't stop running until he sees people. They are yelling at him, screaming, but he can't hear them. Their hands are outstretched for him to grab, but Izuku can't reach them. The world was filled with so much color a moment ago, but now it's slowly fading to blackness. He gets closer and closer to the ground, and then there's silence and peace. Izuku can hear a piano playing in the back of his head. Petunia's final melody as she sings him to peace. Izuku dreams of white, or perhaps it is light. Everything is bright. He feels as if he is floating in the air right now. There is a warm blanket surrounding him, making him feel at home, at peace. It's like he's a baby inside the womb of his mother right now. He likes this. He never wants to be without this feeling. When he opens up his eyes, he still sees white, but it's less bright. He blinks as he stares up at the white ceiling above him. Huh, that feeling didn't last for long. Izuku hears something in the background, a kind of beep noise. He turns his head over to the side and sees a lot of fancy technologies that one would see at a hospital. Izuku lifts up his arm and sees a band around his wrist. Great, he wishes he could say out loud. His throat is so parched and hoarse, though what it sounds like he said was arcs. He looks around his room, but doesn't exactly see a call for help button. Is he supposed to get up and do it himself? He feels like he's been doing that a lot these days. Izuku starts pushing buttons randomly on the remote next to his bed and finds the one that adjusts his mattress. He moves it up higher, scooting up so he'd be in a sitting position. Nothing at all hurts, so they must have given him the good stuff. Izuku hated hospitals. He tried to avoid them as much as possible, and he doesn't feel exactly comfortable being inside of one right now. If he could have things his way, he'd get out of bed and walk himself right out. There is a certain sensation that he feels, though, or lack of, and when he checks himself underneath the blanket, he sees that he's not in the outfit he passed out in. Izuku wonders how long he's going to be stuck like this when the door opens up and answers his prayers. Someone walks in, but it isn't a doctor or nurse or medical professional. It's the damn hero he risked his life to save and got rewarded with him yelling to run away. Oh yeah, things are coming back to Izuku clearly now. The hero looks shocked to see him awake, and the two of them stare at each other like they were in a no-blinking contest or something. Izuku licks his lips and tries to ask for water, but it doesn't get through as the hero tilts his head. Izuku pretends to hold a cup and drinks from it. Oh indeed, the hero had a very deep voice. Izuku didn't imagine that on him. Then again, he didn't imagine a lot of things about the hero as he was running for their lives. He walks over to the faucet and picks up a paper cup, filling it with water, before walking over to his side. Izuku nods his head as his thanks and takes a sip. The water is so refreshing, he doesn't care where it came from. He drinks the whole cup in a couple of gulps and tries clearing his throat. Thank you. You're welcome. How are you feeling? Good. I feel like I'm ready to leave. So could you go call someone to check me out so I can go home now? The hero stares at him with a blank expression on his face. Izuku is completely serious though as he stares right back at him. I can't recommend that. You were hurt and the doctors said you needed to be observed and I don't work here. I'm not a professional, so I couldn't tell them to check you out even if I wanted to. Izuku takes a deep breath and sighs out through his nose. He turns his head away and stares outside of the window. Just call someone then. He wonders how many days it has been. Or perhaps even hours. Izuku didn't feel like he got a good night's rest, so he could have been unconscious for an hour or so before waking up here. Is that why the hero was being so cautious? Why was he even here in the first place? He stopped the villain. Shouldn't he be out waving to his adoring fans, talking to the press, showing off, and junk like that? Sure, give me a moment, I'll be right back. You don't have to come back, Izuku thinks. He doesn't want to waste his voice though as the hero leaves out of his room. Izuku leans back onto his pillow and stares up at the ceiling again. He hopes everything will go smoothly. He closes his eyes and imagines it all. The doctor will come to him. Izuku will tell her that he's fine. She will check his vitals or whatever doctors do, give him a clean bill of health, and then Izuku will be going back to his apartment and sleeping in his own bed. He visualizes that so strongly it has to come true. You're needed here for further testing, at least 2 or 3 more days. Your brain activity was a little scary when you first came here and the bump on your head might have caused a concussion. We would rather be safe than sorry. But she wasn't sorry. She was technically keeping him here against his will, although it was for his own benefit. Izuku didn't care. He hated hospitals and didn't want to be in here for a second longer. So I can't leave today. Izuku asks blankly. His doctor clears her throat and readjusts her glasses. I'm sorry, Mr. Midoriya, but it's not recommended. So that's a complete and utter no. There's no way we can speed up the process a bit and at least have me leave tomorrow then. Is it really necessary for me to stay here for 2 or 3 or however many more days? Is there somewhere you have to be, Mr. Midoriya, that you'd risk your own health for? His doctor gets snippy. No, I just don't think my college medical insurance is going to cover all of this. Izuku snips right back. The hero just stands in the background, like he's been doing for the past 20 minutes when he brought the doctor back in to examine him. If all things go well and there aren't any problems, you may be able to leave tomorrow. That's a big if though, and like I said before, isn't recommended for someone in your condition. I don't believe I have a condition. That hero behind you smacked his head harder than I did on the ground and he's walking around just fine. I don't believe any of this is necessary. What do you mean by that? The hero speaks up. The doctor clears her throat and turns around, facing the hero. He seems to be well enough to speak at the moment. 𝐲𝐸. If you wanted to bring the officers in to question him, it would be fine. Just try not to stay for too long. I understand. Thank you, doctor. I'll be talking to him first alone. It might help ease the burden. Very well. Call me if you need anything else. I will, thank you. Izuku loves how they're having a conversation like he's not here right now. He absolutely loves that fact. What did she call the hero? 𝐲𝐸. Was that his name? Izuku didn't know if he looked like a 𝐲𝐸, but then again he didn't know if he himself looked like an Izuku. 𝐲𝐸 picks up the chair he was sitting in and moves it over to Izuku's bedside while the doctor makes her exit. Izuku watches his every move and stares at him. Your name is 𝐲𝐸. 𝐲𝐸 looks surprised, eyes widening a little bit as he settles down in his seat. Yes, 𝐲𝐸 Todoroki. You didn't know. Izuku shakes his head. I don't follow heroes. Surprised to hear that. There is actually a person who exists that doesn't idolize and fawn over whenever a hero walks by. 𝐲𝐸 actually doesn't look surprised at all to hear him say that. He has a neutral expression on his face, in which Izuku is starting to think that's his normal expression now. 𝐲𝐸 is my first name, but it's also my hero name. Can you tell me yours? Izuku Midoriya. 𝐲𝐸 nods his head. Mr. Midoriya, do you think you could answer a couple of questions for me about the incident that occurred at your school yesterday? Yesterday? So it's only been a day. Izuku passed out and has been sleeping for only a day. That wasn't so bad. He was scared it might have been weeks or something, but a day wasn't bad. He could recover from a day. Chances are class was cancelled now from the villain attack. If he had his phone, he could check his emails and see when they would resume again. Mr. Midoriya. Huh. Oh yeah. If you stop calling me, then I will. Mr. Midoriya is my dad's name. It's all right to call me Izuku. I won't mind. 𝐲𝐸 blinks before he nods his head. All right. Feel free to call me 𝐲𝐸 as well. Izuku doesn't want to say his name at all. Once was enough. 𝐲𝐸 digs inside of his hero uniform and pulls out his phone. He messes around with it before he places it down on the dresser next to him. Do you mind if I record our conversation? Go for it. Izuku shrugs. Whatever gets him out of his hair the quickest. 𝐲𝐸 stares at him for a second before clearing his throat. Izuku Midoriya, can you tell me exactly what happened yesterday, as much detail as you can remember, about the attack that happened at your school? I wasn't aware that my school was getting attacked by a villain. Villains? There are multiple. The one we ran into was Gold Bomber. His entire crew were all attacking your school at once. Dang. So Izuku should consider himself lucky that he only had to face one rather than all of them together. Like I said before, I didn't know. I was in the music room at my college. The room is vacant between 1 and 3, so I usually go there on Mondays and Wednesday to play. Petunia. That's right, she is gone now. Izuku frowns as he stares down at his hands. He'd never be able to go back to that room and play her again. Play the what? Is everything all right there, Mr. Midai? Izuku. She's gone. Who's gone? Was there someone with you in the music room? Did a female student get hurt? Izuku closes his eyes and takes a deep breath before shaking his head. No. I'm sorry. I'm talking about the piano that was in the music room. While I was hiding you, the villain Gold Bomber, he broke into the room and destroyed her. Blew her up into pieces for no reason. She was my friend. 𝐬𝐡𝐢's eyebrows furrow together and he purses his lips. Did you say you were hiding me? Yeah, I'm kind of skipping ahead though. Do you want me to go back or answer your question? Go back please and try not to skip any details. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 tells him all he wants to know. How he was practicing on the piano when he felt a shake and then an explosion. He told every single detail, even if it didn't matter. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 listened to him attentively, especially when he got to the part where 𝐬𝐡𝐢 found him unconscious. He didn't mention how he thought about abandoning him and simply said he ran over to help. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 left out the part about him crying as well, but strangely kept in the part of him struggling to carry 𝐬𝐡𝐢. He wasn't ashamed of that, and he wanted this hero to know just how much trouble he had taken care of him. By the time he was finished with his story, accepting death until 𝐬𝐡𝐢 suddenly woke up and stopped the villain, he was out of breath and feeling parched again. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 was quiet as he stared at him. He turns his head over to the side, reaches for his phone, and holds it in his hand. Can you say that everything that you said was the truth and the whole truth? Yes, I can. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 nods his head and turns the recording off. He pockets his phone before he stands up and bows his head down at 𝐬𝐡𝐢. It shocks the young college boy. He stares at him like something is the matter, eyes all wide as his body clenches up. Thank you for saving my life, 𝐬𝐡𝐢 Midoriya. Ah, you don't have to do this. Really, you don't understand. I got distracted and I let myself get caught off guard. I should have died. I would have died if you hadn't saved me. I owe my life to you. It's thanks to you that I was able to stop Gold Bomber and help the heroes round up the other villains before more people got hurt. You are a hero, 𝐬𝐡𝐢, my hero. 𝐬𝐡𝐢's face pales. He doesn't like hearing those words. He shakes his head before looking away from him. It's fine, thanks for thanking me. You can drop it now. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 leans back up and looks at him. If there is anything that I can do to repay you, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I did what any other person would do in that situation. No, you didn't. A normal person would have run without thinking about it. A normal person would have thought only about themselves rather than risking their lives to save a complete stranger. A normal person wouldn't have done everything that you did, 𝐬𝐡𝐢. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 takes a deep breath before facing 𝐬𝐡𝐢's eyes head on. You're welcome then. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 nods his head. I don't need anything from you though. If you want to repay me then just leave. I'm starting to get a headache again. I need to rest. Ah, right. Of course. Sorry to bother and be pushing you like this during your recovery. Some police officers wanted to come by and get your statement about the incident, but I'll give them this recording and hopefully that will get you off the hook. Take care, 𝐬𝐡𝐢, and rest well. I'll be seeing you. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 bows at him once more before exiting out of the room. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 lets out a loud breath. Finally, he settles back down inside of his bed and stares at the ceiling. I'll be seeing you. He probably didn't mean that. He was a professional hero and 𝐬𝐡𝐢 was a nobody. He hopes that he didn't mean that. No, he probably says that to all of his fans. It keeps them cheerful and hopeful and holds their affection. Chances are that 𝐬𝐡𝐢 was never going to see him again, and that's exactly how he wants it. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 pulls the covers up and over his head. He tries to dream about that world in white again. He could really go for that feeling of peace and serenity again right now. See you later, hellhole. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 walks out of the hospital's front entrance, planning on not heading back here for a good decade or so. He tugs at the tag on his arm before it finally comes loose. There's nothing keeping him here and tying him to this place anymore. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 walks over to the nearest trash can and disposes of the bracelet before walking out towards the sidewalk. He stands there for a moment, taking a deep breath of this fresh air, and remembering that he has no cell phone, no wallet, no money. All his things were inside of his backpack, and 𝐬𝐡𝐢 has no idea where that might be. He was at a hospital he didn't know where, so he didn't even know where to begin to try and walk home. He was kind of screwed right now. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 Midoriya. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 stops staring up at the sky and looks back down towards Earth. He sees a familiar face he was hoping that he would never run into again and tries not to let it show that he's not happy to see him. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 jogs over to meet him. He wasn't in his hero uniform today, but regular clothes instead. A white shirt and a pair of jeans. Casual. He had his hair covered up with a hat and was wearing a pair of black sunglasses, trying to be undercover or something. He takes the glasses off and adjusts his hat when he meets him. What are you doing? Escaping. 𝐬𝐡𝐢's eyes widen slightly and 𝐬𝐡𝐢 sees his hand twitch like he's about to reach out and take him back. That was a joke. I was discharged this morning, so I'm on my way home now. What are you doing here? To come and visit you. What do you mean that they discharged you? I thought the doctor said another 2 or 3 days. Are you sure it's safe for you? 𝐬𝐡𝐢 blinks. Did you just say that you were here to visit me? Why? To check up on you and see how you were doing. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 blinks at him again. You didn't have to do that. I wasn't expecting you to. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 looks away, rubbing the back of his head as he finds something interesting on the ground to look at. 𝐬𝐡𝐢 doesn't know what to think about that. Maybe the hero feels guilty or something and has it in his head that he has to check up on him and make sure he's alright since 𝐬𝐡𝐢 did save his life. I was worried. Are you sure you should be out right now? I was informed that I could leave if I got better. I got better. It wasn't recommended. But they couldn't find anything wrong with me this morning, so there was no reason to keep me anymore. I don't like hospitals. 𝐲𝐻𝐻 frowns at him. Did they give you any medication or instructions to take care of yourself? They gave me a prescription for some painkillers, but I have 𝗂𝐴𝐷 at home. I'm not really in all that much pain. They told me to come back if I felt bad, but I don't think I will. I wasn't hurt all that badly in the first place. Nothing a good nap at my bed at home won't fix. Is that the end of their small talk? This has got to be the most 𝐬𝐻𝐻 has talked to a complete stranger willingly before. Now 𝐬𝐻𝐻 has to figure out how to get home. Is someone coming to pick you up? 𝐬𝐻𝐻 raises an eyebrow as he stares at 𝐲𝐻𝐻. I'm only asking because I could offer you a ride home if no one is coming. I drove here today. My car is parked right in the parking lot. I could take you wherever you need to go. Was this a solution? 𝐬𝐻𝐻 didn't see any other way, and he couldn't think of one either. He's sure he might be able to figure something out. But how long would that take? 𝐲𝐻𝐻 was a hero. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 didn't trust him, but hopefully a short car ride home. It isn't any trouble at all if that's what you're worried about. I'm off duty today. It's my day off. Do you always offer people rides home on your days off? 𝐲𝐻𝐻 finally gives him a small smile. It's the least I can offer the man who saved my life. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 swallows down the saliva forming in his mouth and takes a small breath. He just wanted to go home right now, so that was his answer. If you're sure it isn't any trouble. It's not. I'm parked right over here. Follow me. Just a couple more minutes, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 tells himself. Just a couple more minutes. He follows 𝐲𝐻𝐻 towards the parking lot. He drives, something he didn't think a hero would drive. It wasn't expensive looking and flashy, but a regular silver looking compact car. Something anyone would have driving down the street. Once they get in the car together, 𝐲𝐻𝐻 takes off his glasses and tosses his hat back. He runs his fingers through his hair as he looks at 𝐬𝐻𝐻. Seatbelt. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 turns his head and reaches for it, buckling it in. 𝐲𝐻𝐻 does the same before starting his car. He turns on the radio to something smooth playing, but doesn't turn it all the way up that loud, putting the car in reverse. He pulls out of the parking spot and then proceeds to drive out of the parking lot. Where do you live? Right near 𝐴 College. Just head there and I can give you directions. Do you live on campus? No, I have an apartment just outside of it. That might be good. Your college is a little bit crowded recently because of the crime scene. A lot of damage was done, so they'll be focusing on construction right afterwards. You don't say. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 had no television in his room and zero contact with the outside world, so he had no idea at all about anything. 𝐲𝐻𝐻 could have told him his school completely burned down and he would have believed him. It was still intact though, and a crime scene at that. Do you know if they found any of my personal things at school? Personal things? Yeah, I left my backpack in the storage closet. I hid us inside the music room. And I dropped my phone during that explosion. The phone doesn't really matter, I'm sure it's gone, but my wallet and my keys, they were in my backpack too. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 groans. Why was that his luck? There's no way he would have been able to carry his backpack with his heavy college books and 𝐲𝐻𝐻 around. But he could have at least been smart enough to think about the future a bit. I'm not sure, but I can find out for you. If you want, I can make a call to the station and we can swing by there first. You won't be able to get into your place without your keys, right? No, it's all right. The landlord knows me. I'm sure she'll let me in. If you tell me what station to check, I can go and visit myself in a couple of days. It's not all that important now. The only thing 𝐬𝐻𝐻 wants to do now is be in the comfort of his own home and relax. He wants to take a long, hot shower, wash away everything that's on his skin, and then snuggle up with his pillow. How are you going to get home without your wallet and phone? I don't know. I was figuring that out when you saw me. 𝐲𝐻𝐻 chuckles. I guess it's a good thing that I saw you then. I guess. 𝐲𝐻𝐻 drums his fingers on the steering wheel. There is no problem with uncomfortable silences. 𝐲𝐻𝐻 seemed like the type of man who had them all the time, but for some reason he was really trying to make small talk with him. Were you able to call your family at the hospital and tell them about your accident? I'm sure they would have let you borrow the phone if you asked. No, they didn't. Did you want to use my phone now? No, I didn't. I'm an only child and both my parents are on a trip right now with poor cell reception. I'm not sure if the hospital called them. My mother is my emergency contact, but I don't want to ruin their trip and have them worry for no reason. I'm completely fine. So you keep telling me. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 looks at him. Do you think I'm lying? 𝐲𝐻𝐻 glances at him out of the corner of his eyes before staring back at the road. No. If you say you are, then you are. It always takes a while to convince me. 𝐬𝐻𝐻 looks away and stares out the window. You don't have to if you don't want to. It doesn't matter to me. Pretty soon the two of them will part ways and 𝐬𝐻𝐻's life will return back to normal. The car ride doesn't stop getting awkward. 𝐲𝐻𝐻 asks a bit more questions and 𝐬𝐻𝐻 answers them without trying to sound irritated. Once they start hitting familiar streets, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 gives off directions, ending the mindless chatter, and pretty soon 𝐲𝐻𝐻 is pulling up to his apartment building. Thank you, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 says, taking his seatbelt off. I can walk you up. No, I'm going to be fine. Thank you, but no thank you. I can at least wait and make sure you're able to get in all right. That sounded like an invitation. If you don't, we're going to hang out. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 reaches for the door and opens it up. I get it. You're trying to be a hero and offer me your assistance. But it's really fine, 𝐲𝗏. I'm a big boy. I can walk to my door and handle waiting until my landlord comes home, but I know she's here. She hardly leaves the building. Thank you so much for the ride home. Have a good rest of your day off. He doesn't know what he's saying anymore, but his anxiety is getting the better of him and he needs to leave right now. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 gives him an awkward smile and gets out of his car. He closes the door behind him and walks off without a second glance at all backwards towards him. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 doesn't feel safe until he's inside of his apartment building. A part of him wants to look back and see if 𝐲𝗏 actually left or not, but he's scared to see if he didn't. Instead, he walks right up to the front desk and rings the bell. A terribly less awkward conversation, and 10 minutes later 𝐬𝐻𝐸 is in the security of his own home. He locks up his door and then throws off his clothes immediately afterwards. 𝐬𝐻𝐸's clothes were burned and smelled terrible, but it was better than the basket of used clothes they were trying to offer him. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 completely shuts down his brain as he heads over towards his bathroom and fills his bathtub with steaming hot water. It burns his skin when he sticks a foot in, but he gets used to the heat as he sinks in. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 tries relaxing and unwinding his muscles finally. He's made it home. He's safe. When he's done washing up, he can eat some food, take a painkiller, and then fall asleep and worry about the world tomorrow. For right now, all he has to do is close his eyes and relax. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 wakes up with a jump. He lifts his head up from the pillow and looks around, feeling like complete and utter shit. What in the world just happened right now? He groans as he lays his head back on the pillow and rolls around. Knock, knock, knock. Is that knocking coming from his door? No one ever knocks on his door. Is that what woke him up? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 lifts his head up again and rolls around. He waits to see if it happens again. And it does, this time sounding a bit louder and more impatient. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 groans as he picks himself up out of bed. Who in the world could be visiting him at this hour? He wipes his lips, feeling some crust come off, and runs his fingers through his hair a bit before he undoes the locks on his door and opens it up wide. Who is it? 𝐬𝐻𝐸. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 opens his half-closed eyes fully and stares at the hero standing outside of his door right now. 𝐲𝗏, what are you doing? Why are you here? Do you have any idea what time it is? 𝐲𝗏 lifts up his arm and looks down at his watch. About 20 minutes past 1. Did you just say? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 stops talking to him and walks back inside of his apartment. He heads over to the stove and squints his eyes, seeing it say in red light that it is 1:23 right now at this moment. It was already 1. Did 𝐬𝐻𝐸 sleep the entire morning? 𝐬𝐻𝐸, mind if I come in? How in the world did that happen? He even fell asleep early as well. Ugh, not that it really mattered. He appreciated the sleep and he didn't have anything planned to do today. It was just strange how he slept in so late when normally he's an early bird catches the worm kind of guy. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 turns around to head back to 𝐲𝗏 and jumps up when he spies him standing at the entrance of his kitchen. Sorry, you kind of left. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 rubs the crust out of his eyes and shakes his head. No, it's my bad. You kind of caught me at a bad time. I'm starting to see that now. Don't be ashamed. After a night of patrolling, I don't wake up until past 3. I have trouble waking up early. Always have since I was a kid. I see, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 says. So, to what do I owe this visit? 𝐲𝗏 clears his throat and takes the backpack off of his shoulders. Does this look familiar? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 gasps as he walks over. My backpack. He takes it out of 𝐲𝗏's hand and places it down on the counter, opening it up to make sure all his things were still inside. I'm happy that you recognized it. I drove by the station after I dropped you off and they had the bag of yours in evidence for some reason. It's not exactly a key piece of the crime. They were also able to find your phone as well. Really? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 asks, looking around for it. He finds it in the small front zipper and presses the middle button, seeing it light up and unlock itself. Well, that's one expense that he doesn't have to worry about. All his school books and work were still there, even his wallet and the $7 he had inside of it. It was truly a miracle that he was able to get all of this back. Thank you, 𝐲𝗏. You didn't have to do this. It was the least I could do. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 chuckles softly. You keep saying that, but I mean it. Thank you. 𝐲𝗏 coughs into his hand and nods his head. You're welcome, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. I'm glad that I was able to return it back safely to you. That you did. 𝐲𝗏 continues to stand there and 𝐬𝐻𝐸 stares at him. Is that it? That's it, right? Shouldn't he be? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 doesn't know, excusing himself or something. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 is incredibly thankful and he's expressed that. So, have you had breakfast yet? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 tilts his head to the side. 𝐲𝗏 coughs into his hand again and clears his throat. I mean, obviously you haven't since you just woke up. And it's not even breakfast anymore. Did you want to have lunch with me? My treat. That was random and came completely out of nowhere. Does he look surprised right now? Because 𝐬𝐻𝐸 certainly feels that way. He puts his phone down as he tries to think up a reply to that. Before he can reject him, his stomach starts to growl all of a sudden, answering the question. Izuku's cheeks fluster as he quickly hugs himself and 𝐲𝐻𝐬 snorts softly, trying to hide it behind his hand, but he fails miserably. I'll give you time to get ready. I'm parked outside in the front, so just come down whenever you're done. And no, while wait a 𝐶𝐸𝐻, Izuku's voice dies out. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 walks away, and he can hear the door closing behind him. Izuku groans out loudly to himself. You're such an idiot. Well, he can't just not go now, right? He was already forced to accept, and 𝐲𝐻𝐬 apparently knows his apartment number now, so he'll just come up if Izuku doesn't come down. He could pretend he's too sick to make it. No, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 acted weird about him leaving. If he says he's sick, he might actually try and take him back to the hospital or something. Izuku groans and glares down at his phone. At least he got his stuff back. He keeps thinking that he's washed his hands of 𝐲𝐻𝐬, but like gum he's sticking to the bottom of his shoe right now. Hopefully this will be the very last time. Izuku huffs and nods his head as he marches over to his closet to get dressed. At least I'm getting a free lunch. How long have you lived alone for? Since I started attending college, so 2 years. Almost 3. Izuku answers. He rips open a packet of sugar and pours it into his cup before stirring it up with a spoon. What are you majoring in? English. Journalism to be specific. But if I take some extra classes I could get my teaching credentials as well, so I might do that too. Oh, do you like writing? Izuku shrugs as he brings his cup to his lips, enough to try and make a living out of it. He takes a small sip to make sure it isn't boiling hot before taking another sip. It was at the perfect temperature to drink right now. After meeting 𝐲𝐻𝐬 downstairs, he drove them off to no real destination in mind. Instead, he asked Izuku where he wanted to go, and honestly, Izuku didn't know either. He didn't really have a craving for anything, but knew he was hungry, so he pointed at the first family diner the two of them passed by. Weirdly enough, out of everything on the menu, he ended up ordering pancakes to eat, along with a side of bacon, sausage, and French fries. Izuku was starving right now, and if a pro hero was paying for his meal, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 is probably loaded. A couple of extra side dishes wasn't going to hurt his bank. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 didn't even bat an eye and ordered a large meal himself. He told Izuku to get whatever he wanted, and that's exactly what he did. Now they are at that awkward moment in time where they're waiting for their food to be brought out to them and have no choice but to talk to each other. Written anything that I might have read so far. If only the conversation could have been easier. Unless you read 𝐬𝐶𝐻 college newspapers or their online forums, probably not. I don't consider myself to be an actual journalist or writer just yet. There's still plenty of things that I have to learn first. But maybe someday. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 nods his head and takes a sip out of his drink. All right, Izuku, you can do this. Just because you haven't talked to anyone in a while didn't mean you suddenly forgot all your conversation skills. Izuku didn't want to talk to 𝐲𝐻𝐬 and ask him anything hero-related, because he honestly didn't care, but seeing as he was a pro hero and that was basically his life, it left the topics kind of limited. How's your head? My head? Yeah, they checked you into the hospital as well, didn't they? You wouldn't wake up no matter what I did, so I thought you might have had a concussion. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should apologize. I don't remember if I told you in the interview, but I kind of slapped you a bit, very lightly, and poured water on your face hoping that it would wake you up. It didn't. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 stares at him with a peculiar expression on his face. I don't think that you did, but I do believe that I remember that. Poured water? Yeah, I remember that part. So you were conscious? No, I was completely out of my mind. I kept coming in and out though. I remember some things. Glimpses, before I finally woke up. Do you remember anything that I said? No, why? What did you say? Nothing important. Izuku answers that question too quickly and ducks his head down. He only asked that because he wanted to know if 𝐲𝐻𝐬 remembered him crying on his chest or not. If he didn't, that would be a great thing, and if he could forget that forever, then all would be right and square. Back at the hospital, you were talking about a girl. Patricia. Izuku questions. No, I don't remember. The name started with a P. You said she exploded. Oh, Petunia. Right, Petunia. I was close. Izuku giggles a little bit. Not really. I got the P right. Close enough. She was the piano. Izuku blushes and scratches the back of his head. Why, yeah. Can you tell me more about that? I'm curious. About a piano. About Petunia. Izuku takes a small breath before patting his lap a bit. Sure. She was donated to the school by some rich guy over 20 years ago. Petunia was the name of his wife, who was a musician, so that name kind of stuck with her. She was a grand piano-er. I don't know if you know piano types, but she was the type you would see if you were going to an orchestra concert. Everyone worked really hard to keep her in tune and in good condition because, well, she was special. You called her your friend. Izuku winces. Yeah, I may have grown a little bit overly attached to her. I had to take a music appreciation class my first year of college as an elective, and that's when I first met her. I don't own a piano at home, as you could see since you've been to my apartment, but the professor who taught that class always welcomed me to come and play her whenever I want. Anytime I had a bit of time between my classes, I would head towards the music room and play with her. I guess I can't do that anymore. I'm sorry, Izuku. It's not your fault, 𝐲𝐻𝐬. You didn't force that villain to suddenly up and destroy the school. I'm pretty sure there is another piano somewhere on that campus that I'll have to discover. There was really no reason for me to play anyway, so it really doesn't matter. I just got attached to a hunk of wood. I'm sure Petunia was special. If you met her in your first year, and it's your second year now, that is a real committed relationship there. Certainly longer than any relationship I've ever been in. I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm sure Petunia is in a better place now. Piano heaven. Izuku smiles a little bit. I'd believe in it. That was a first. Izuku wasn't expecting 𝐲𝐻𝐬 to be so nice about it, but he was. He didn't laugh or tease Izuku. He sympathized with him and even tried to cheer him up. Thanks, 𝐲𝐻𝐬. Don't worry, I avenged her. Gold Bomber won't be murdering any more pianos for the rest of his life. So maybe this isn't going so terrible and awful as Izuku had originally thought it would have. That drive home was god-awful yesterday, but sitting together in a diner right now, it wasn't all too bad. The waitress came over and filled the table with food of all kinds in front of them. This was Izuku's favorite part of dining out, where the two of them could shut up and stuff their faces. Izuku doesn't know why. Maybe it had to do with the fact that he almost died, but nothing has ever tasted this good before in his life. He was close to moaning. He thinks he actually did moan when he dipped his pancake in syrup and then took a bite out of it. Good, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 asks. You have no idea. I never knew pancakes could taste this way. What is this place called again? I might have to start coming here. Old Kai's Diner. I don't think this place is a chain since I've never heard of it before either. Izuku looks over at the setup 𝐲𝐻𝐬 had spread out in front of him. He had things like poached eggs, wheat toast, oatmeal, and a grapefruit, all very healthy meals. It made Izuku curious and think, do you always eat this healthy? Sometimes. I have cheat days, or if I'm out celebrating or with my family I won't, but this diet is a part of my training. Can't be fit if I eat pancakes every day. Izuku narrows his eyes, taking a bit of offense to that. Maybe you should cut back more. I've never carried anyone as heavy as you before. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 stares at him and Izuku quickly shoves his mouth to hide the smile appearing on his lips. Maybe you should try it. You might gain some muscles if you eat right and exercise daily. It'll be easier for you to save me next time. Izuku stares down at his food and stabs his fork into a French fry. Nah, I think my rescuing days are over now. I hope to never experience something like that again. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 slows down his chewing. Have you talked to someone about it? Why would I? You were a part of a villain attack. You faced a villain head-on. It's traumatizing for people sometimes. There's a counselor that my agency offers for victims. No thank you, I'm not traumatized. It's just not an experience that I want happening to me again. Izuku shut that conversation down. He doesn't want to talk about counselors and trauma. He's dealt with real trauma before and this was nothing compared to that. It's more common than you think, people seeing counselors. If you're ever interested, the offer is open. Izuku nods his head, but doesn't respond out loud. He's in kind of a bad mood after that. The food still tastes good and all, but he finds himself eating in a bit of a hurry after that. He wants to be back home in the safety of his own place now. He doesn't know if 𝐲𝐻𝐬 gets the message or not, because it seems like he's taking his time. Not quickly enough. All the food disappears and 𝐲𝐻𝐬 is paying the check before he's driving Izuku back home. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 might have gotten the hint then because it was a quiet drive back before his apartment came into view again. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 pulls up to the curve and Izuku takes his seatbelt off. Thanks for the meal, 𝐲𝐻𝐬. Izuku, wait a second. Izuku takes his hand off of the door handle and looks over at him. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 digs his phone out and holds it up. Let me see your phone. Izuku puts his hand over his pocket, feeling his phone. What for? So we can exchange numbers. He furrows his eyebrows together in confusion. You sure that's a wise idea? It didn't seem like a good one at all. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 was a pro hero. Izuku is sure there are thousands of people who would love something like that and hundreds that would kill to be in the position that he's in right now, but for Izuku, it seemed like a hassle. I trust you. If you don't give it out willy-nilly, since this is my personal line, it'll be fine. Izuku doesn't know what possesses him to take out his phone, but it seems like today was yes day and not no day. He unlocks it and clicks on the app, holding his phone up. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 does the same exact thing and a few seconds later their phones ping with each other's information. I got it. If you're ever in any trouble, or need help, or simply want to talk, don't hesitate to contact me. Izuku nods his head because he doesn't know what else to say. He thinks it's okay to leave now, so he reaches for the door handle and makes his exit. He closes the door and 𝐲𝐻𝐬 rolls down the window. Goodbye, Izuku. Izuku looks behind his shoulder, squeezing onto his phone tightly. Bye. This time he watches as 𝐲𝐻𝐬 drives off. There was something wrong. This didn't seem like their final goodbyes. This seemed like something more permanent. Was he the only one who thought that? He had 𝐲𝐻𝐬's number, but he's being ridiculous. He gave it to me, but that doesn't mean I have to use it. I'm never going to use it. This was the last time. Izuku doesn't sound all that convincing to himself, but maybe if he says it enough times it'll start to sound truer. Izuku's life returned to normal. Well, almost normal. just like he thought. School was cancelled for a week and all of his professors were giving online assignments for their students to do until it opened back up. 𝐻𝐡𝐚𝐭 liked this and might have actually preferred it this way. He didn't have to travel. He didn't have to sit inside of a classroom. He could lay in his bed reading and working the entire day. The police never did stop by his place nor try to call him like the hospital said they would. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 must have given them all of the statements that they needed, which was good because 𝐻𝐡𝐚𝐭 was not looking forward to that. He also has not received a ginormous medical bill in the mail either. He doesn't know who to thank for that, probably the school, but whoever that was, thank you. Classes were going to begin like normal soon and 𝐻𝐡𝐭's everyday life was going to return back to their usual routine, except for one thing: his stupid phone. He didn't know what it was at first when it buzzed the very next day after 𝐲𝐻𝐸 gave him his number. He thought it might have been his parents or something, but no. It was 𝐲𝐻𝐸 asking how his day was going. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 didn't understand the text at all. Didn't the hero tell him to text first if he needed anything? So why was 𝐲𝐻𝐸 texting first? 𝐻𝐡𝐭 tried to ignore it. But then more texts came and it seemed like 𝐲𝐻𝐸 was about to come over and see if he was still alive, so he had to reply back to him with a weak excuse. It didn't end with one day. This ended up being an everyday thing and 𝐻𝐡𝐭 knew that his foreboding was coming true. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 wasn't leaving him alone. If he was simply worried about his health, he would have stopped a week ago because 𝐻𝐡𝐭 was completely recovered now. But then the text got strange, asking him if he's eaten, if he wants to go out, if he wants to hang out. Of course, 𝐻𝐡𝐭 always came up with the same excuse. School is acting crazy and he doesn't have any time to spare as he catches up. He doesn't know how long that excuse would last him, but 𝐻𝐡𝐭 was determined not to meet up with him again and continue this, whatever this is. He certainly didn't know. This all would probably end if 𝐻𝐡𝐭 was upfront about it to him and said, "I don't want to see you anymore." How strange of a conversation would that be though? Telling a pro hero to leave him alone. It would surely drive up questions. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 would wonder what was wrong with him. It would cause more trouble than solutions, he honestly thinks. But those feelings are changing lately as 𝐲𝐻𝐸 won't leave him alone. How would that conversation even go? He would send him a text message, obviously, and then 𝐲𝐻𝐸 would call him. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 should just lose his phone. And then 𝐲𝐻𝐸 would come to his apartment to check in because he knows where he lives. He didn't have a solution, at least, not right now. As long as he stayed away though, 𝐻𝐡𝐭 could deal with a couple of texts every now and then. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 had a full-time and demanding job. He would lose interest in 𝐻𝐡𝐭 sooner or later. He was hoping for sooner, but 𝐻𝐡𝐭 needs to prepare that he might be in this for the long run. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 makes his way over to room 101 in the West building. When he sees it under construction, he hesitates for a second before remembering the battle. Of course, he could no longer go in there and play Petunia. He was finally back at school Monday morning and he was just going through the regular motions of his day. But it seems now that he'll have to go home instead. Petunia, 𝐻𝐡𝐭 whispers to himself. He'll never find another piano like her. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 turns away from the West building and starts making his way across campus. If he hurries, he'll be able to catch the bus and then be home before the afternoon. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 wonders what he should do today. Going out didn't seem all that appealing to him. Maybe he could finally try and contact his parents, finish up all the homework he has, and probably pass out while watching TV. That's always a good thing. Hey, look over there. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 stops walking and turns his head to the side. He sees a group of girls all huddled together talking in a rush as they point their fingers to the sky. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 follows their gaze and looks, seeing, is that a person? Jumping around on the rooftops of buildings. Oh, it was a hero. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 frowns and continues walking, having no such interest in something like that. Why is a hero even here in the first place? Patrolling. Are they going to start doing that more often since this place was a target? 𝐻𝐡𝐭 still doesn't even know why the villains decided to attack here. Not like there is anything valuable to steal at a school. Oh look, I think he's heading this way. Oh my god, oh my god. Do you think 𝐲𝐻𝐸 will let me get a picture with him? 𝐻𝐡𝐭 feels his blood run cold. 𝐲𝐻𝐸, did those girls just say show 𝐲𝐻𝐸? 𝐻𝐡𝐭 quickly lifts up his hood and covers his green hair, speeding off in his walk. There's no way that he saw him, right? He was too far away last time he checked and now 𝐻𝐡𝐭 isn't going to look. He isn't going to look. He's going to keep his head down and return home and he's going to pretend that he didn't. 𝐻𝐡𝐭. Dang it. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 grumbles underneath his breath. Could he still run? How on earth could he outrun a hero? Especially one that can freeze people. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 stops walking and stands up straight. He turns his head to the side and sees 𝐲𝐻𝐸 landing near him on it. It looks to be an ice slide of some sort. It quickly melts and evaporates though as flames come shooting out of 𝐲𝐻𝐸's fingers behind him. Flames and ice. That's an interesting combination that doesn't interest 𝐻𝐡𝐭 at all. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 walks over to him dressed in his hero uniform, glory gathering the attention of everyone around them. 𝐻𝐡𝐭, I thought I saw you there. 𝐲𝐻𝐸, what are you doing here? I was out patrolling in the area and thought I would drop by and see how you're doing. Today was your first day back to school, right? How was it? 𝐻𝐡𝐭 opens his mouth to answer that question, but flinches softly. He hears whispers and mutters all around him, and if he looks he can see a small crowd growing larger by the second. 𝐻𝐸 lowers his shoulders and tugs on his hood. 𝐲𝐸, do you really think you should be here right now? I mean out of disguise. I'm pretty sure you're going to be mobbed right now if you don't leave soon. 𝐲𝐸 looks around. I guess you're right. Now probably isn't the greatest time to chat, especially since I'm technically still on the clock, so how about dinner tonight when I get off of work? 𝐲𝐸, I'm off at 5, so I'll pick you up for dinner, say 6. It would be my treat, of course. It can be a celebration dinner for making it through your first day back to school. 𝐻𝐸 flinches, his legs shaking a bit. He can hear 𝐲𝐸's conversation, but he also hears everyone else's. Who is he talking to? I don't know. I didn't think he had friends that went to the school. Do you think we can go up and talk to him? I'm going to do it. 𝐲𝐸, now's not the best time, don't worry about me. I'll go when you say yes. 𝐻𝐸 sees someone walking over and meets 𝐲𝐸's eyes. Okay, we can have dinner. 𝐲𝐸's eyes brighten up and he smiles a bit. Okay, I'll text you when I'm on my way over. Goodbye, 𝐻𝐸. 𝐲𝐸 doesn't leave immediately, but walks over towards the street to make his exit. If he did this to protect 𝐻𝐸 or not, the boy didn't know, but he quickly took advantage of it and continued where he was going. 𝐻𝐸 makes it to the bus stop just when his bus is taking off, and he just stands there, cursing his fate. Dang it, what a day. Knock, knock, knock. 𝐻𝐸 stops what he's doing and looks up. He turns around and checks the time on the stove. Exactly 6. Punctual. 𝐻𝐸 turns around and heads for his sink, washing his hands off. He grabs a dish rag and dries them off as he heads towards the front door. 𝐲𝐸 is standing right on the other side, dressed in casual clothes. He must have gone home first and changed before coming here. Hello, 𝐻𝐸, are you ready to go? 𝐻𝐸 meets his eyes and feels nervous all of a sudden about that 𝐲𝐸. 𝐲𝐸 tilts his head to the side lightly. 𝐻𝐸 thought about it when he got home, but he really didn't want to go out today, especially after being on everyone's attention earlier at school. 𝐻𝐸 had checked the college app and saw pictures of 𝐲𝐸 everywhere, including pictures of him as well. None of them had a good and clear image of his face, but 𝐻𝐸 will never be wearing that outfit to school again. What's wrong? Nothing is wrong. Come in. 𝐻𝐸 takes a step back and starts walking towards the kitchen. 𝐲𝐸 blinks and swallows as he walks inside of the apartment. He closes the door behind him and locks it up before taking off his shoes. Pardon my intrusion, he says, walking inside. 𝐻𝐸 opens up his cabinets and takes out some utensils and glasses. He was a little behind schedule, but the meal was all done and they could eat in a minute. He heads over to the table and starts to set it up. I hope you don't mind. I didn't feel like going out tonight, so I made dinner instead. No, 𝐲𝐸 whispers before clearing his voice. No, I don't mind at all. Thank you. 𝐻𝐸 shrugs. It's nothing special. Would you like barley tea, juice, or water? 𝐲𝐸 clears his throat. Tea is fine. Okay, just give me a second. Do you need any help? Nope. You can sit down at the table. 𝐻𝐸 heads over to the refrigerator and takes out the jug of iced tea. Heading back to the table, 𝐻𝐸 pours the tea inside of a glass and places it down in front of him. Here you go. Thank you, 𝐻𝐸. You're welcome. 𝐲𝐸's eyes are on him as he watches him walk around in the kitchen. 𝐻𝐸 takes out 2 plates and starts piling on rice. He adds the meat on top of it and pours a bit of sauce before heading back towards the table. I hope you like pork katsudan, 𝐻𝐸 says, placing the plate in front of 𝐲𝐸. He walks over to the other side of the table and sits down, picking up a napkin and placing it on his lap. 𝐲𝐸 looks down at the meal. This looks amazing. Did you make this? Yeah, be careful. I just took it out of the pot, so it should still be pretty hot. I'm impressed. 𝐻𝐸 looks up at him and raises an eyebrow, impressed. Yes, I can't cook at all, not for the life of me. I'm always impressed when someone can cook. You never tried to learn. Oh, I did, a couple of times. You would think my fire quirk would be perfect for that, but my ice quirk was actually more useful, putting out all the fires I'd accidentally make in the kitchen. I usually dine out to eat now or get takeout. There's a convenience store next to my place that sells really good lunch boxes as well. Thanks for this meal. 𝐲𝐸 picks up his chopsticks and grabs a piece of katsudan. He brings it to his lips and takes a bite out of it, eyes opening up a bit as he chews. It's delicious. I'm not sure if that's a compliment if all you have to compare it to is takeout food. 𝐻𝐸 jokes. 𝐲𝐸 smiles up at him a little. I'm serious. It's really good. I can't remember the last time I had a home-cooked meal. 𝐻𝐸 stares up at him. Really? I usually cook all my meals at home. It's cheaper that way, especially for a college student like myself. 𝐲𝐸 takes another bite out of his meal, not being able to stop himself. He wonders if there will be seconds because he feels like he could eat so much more. So, how was your first day back at school? Any trouble with your classes? No. What did you do? Tell me about your day. 𝐻𝐸 thought this was supposed to be eating time, not talking time. He's barely even taken a bite yet and 𝐲𝐸 was trying to have a conversation with him. There wasn't anything particularly special. All of my professors had the same talk about villains and what had happened. The school made an announcement and sent our emails about what happened. I think they're going to start training for drills or something in case this happens again. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 hums. That's good. I'm surprised they haven't done so already, although I don't know if there's ever been an accident there before. I'm glad that they're doing something about it now. Were your classmates nervous or scared to return back to class? They were certainly talkative. They created a whole new forum for you and the other heroes that came to save the day. I didn't look through it, but there was a post that popped up on my phone. Did you happen to write anything about it? I'm sure you would be the most qualified since you were right in the middle of it. I wouldn't mind if you wanted to write an article or interview me. It's the least you could do. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 raises his eyebrow. 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 chuckles. I really do say that too much, huh? Just a bit. Thanks for the offer, but I don't really write pieces on heroes. Besides, if it got out that I was the one who rescued you, then they'd think we knew each other and were friends, and then my peaceful days would be over as everyone would try to bombard me with questions and favors because of you. I'm lucky that no one got a clear picture of us together when you came by the school today, or else I'd be the talk online. I'm sorry. I never meant to cause you any trouble like that. I didn't realize that my visit might cause such a problem. I wasn't even expecting to run into you. I was hoping that I might find you though as I patrolled. Did anyone bother you when I left? No, I quickly ran to the bus stop and was able to get away. I'll try to be more considerate next time. Next time? What does he mean by next time? 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 isn't going to come to his school again, is he? 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬's stomach grumbles a little bit, calling his attention away. He's finally had a break from talking. He doesn't want to waste it asking more questions. He starts digging into his meal, his sour mood melting away and becoming velvety as he sinks his teeth into the perfectly crispy deep-fried pork. He loves this meal so much. It was his absolute favorite. Not as good as his mother's. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 doesn't know what she does to make it so special, but maybe it was just a mother's touch. I had a pretty peaceful day as well. There was nothing worthwhile when I was patrolling today. It was the first in a long while. 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 does all the talking for the rest of the night, and it's now 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬's turn to stuff his face and eat his meal. He serves both of them another serving. The pork he had in his fridge going bad, so he had to make all of them in one go. 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 talks about the agency and his hero work, which 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 barely listens to. He's not interested in those types of things and barely offers any conversation back. Pretty soon, to 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬's relief, the both of them get full and 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 is offering to help him clean up. Don't worry about it, 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬. It's only 2 plates and glasses. It won't take me long. I still feel bad. You invited me into your home and cooked me a meal. Well, you bought me lunch once, so I say that makes us even. Did you want to take home any leftovers? There's still plenty left. 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 nods his head. If you wouldn't mind. Thank you. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 didn't mind at all. He was actually doing him a favor from eating pork katsudon for the next 2 days. He digs around in his cabinets for some Tupperware and packs it up for 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬, placing it in a plastic bag. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 walks 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 over towards the door and hands it to him. Have a safe drive home, 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬. I'll text you when I get there. Thanks so much for the evening, 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬. I very much enjoyed it. 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 meets his eyes and smiles. I don't think I'll ever be able to eat regular pork katsudon again. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 blinks, feeling his cheeks heat up a little bit. He clears his throat. Thanks and you're welcome. Take care. Goodbye, 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬. 𝐲𝐻𝐻𝐬 leaves his apartment. After that, 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 closes the door behind him. He stands there for a couple of seconds, leans his head against the door, and sighs out. He doesn't know what that was, but he's glad that it was over. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 turns around and finishes cleaning off the table. He turns on the sink, grabs a sponge, and starts to do dishes. When was the last time I had someone over for dinner? 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 couldn't remember. He doesn't think there was ever a time, even with his parents. He doesn't think he's ever had anyone visit him before. He's always been here alone, eating his meals alone, enjoying his own company. Tonight, for the first time ever, he had someone else with him, and I guess it wasn't that bad. This definitely shouldn't become a habit. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 stares curiously at his phone. We're reading over the email an old professor of his sent him randomly out of the blue. They haven't talked to each other probably since he was a first year, although he always tries to say hi whenever he passes by her. He got an email from her yesterday asking if he could make a visit to the East Building, room 202. Most of 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬's classes were located there now since the West Building and the North Building were under construction. All the classes were now switched around and overpopulated, and the remaining buildings still standing. I wonder what she wants from me. It can't be anything bad since 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 hasn't seen her in a long time. Maybe she just wanted to catch up. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 locks his phone and puts it inside of his pocket. He enters the East Building and heads upstairs. Room 202 should have been one of the first rooms, but he entered from the wrong direction. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 has to walk all the way to the end of the hallway, but when he gets there he finds the room he needs. He spies his old professor on the inside and reaches up his hand, knocking on the door before entering. Hello, Professor Carroll. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬. Hey, come in. How have you been? It's been a long while, hasn't it? Izuku nods his head as he walks inside of the classroom. Yes, it has. I've been pretty good so far. What about yourself? Still trying to get used to all the changes, honestly. Were you here at school during the attack? How are you feeling about all of it? The school has offered guidance to those who need it. There should have been an email that got sent out to all the students. Yes, I was there during the attack, but I was honestly fine. No real damage was done to me and I'm kind of getting used to things now. You're right, it is strange how all my classes are switched around, but I'm getting used to it. Maybe another week or so and it'll feel normal again. I'm glad to hear it. You know I'm here, as well as the school, Izuku, if you ever need anything. I don't think there's ever been a villain attack at school before, but I was shopping once and there was a fight right down the street from where I was. I've experienced something like this before and I have to say it was a bit terrifying. Thank goodness for heroes, or else I'm afraid to think what would have happened. Izuku lets out a long breath from his nose. So Professor Carroll, I was surprised and happy to receive an email from you. Is there something going on? Yes, right. Of course you're thinking this is strange. Duh. Yes, I have something for you. Or well, I mean, something to show you. Come right over here, please, Carol says, standing up from behind her desk. She walks over to a covered-up piano and Izuku follows right after her. He didn't remember if there was originally a piano or not in this room. He's never heard of the East Building having one, which is why he went over to the West Building every time. Carol smiles as she tugs off the cover and reveals a black grand piano. It was shining and looked absolutely brand new. Wow, Izuku whispers. I know, she's a beauty, isn't she? We were finally able to get her into this room and I've been fine-tuning her for the past day, so she's all ready to go and be played. This is amazing, Professor Carroll. I am a bit confused. Why are you showing me this? Carol giggles. This is the piano that's supposed to be going in the new music room. Someone donated it to us anonymously, and it was given with a note that included your name in it. That's why I'm showing you this, Izuku. What? Really? Yes, so I wanted you to meet Petunia too. I have the letter if you want to read it. It's right on my desk. Izuku turns around and walks straight towards it, heart racing inside of his chest a little bit. His hand shakes as he picks up the letter and scans over the contents. To whom it may concern, it has come to my attention that you have lost a valuable member to your institution, the grand piano known as Petunia, due to the recent villain attack. My condolences for your loss. I would like to donate a new grand piano for the music room only if these conditions are met. The new grand piano must be named Petunia too. In honor of the recently departed Petunia, Izuku Midoriya may be allowed to play her whenever he wants. I'll assume you'll have no problems agreeing with my terms, which is why I have already purchased and sent the instrument beforehand. Take care of her. Do you know who it might have come from, Izuku? Izuku takes a deep breath in and out. He reads through the letter again, and again, and again. Izuku, I'm sorry, what was that, Professor Carroll? Izuku asks, turning his head back. Do you know who this letter might be from? I can't say that I do. Not anyone who could afford a piano, and I didn't really tell anyone about Petunia, so your guess is as good as mine, Professor Carroll. Oh, what a shame. The school would really like to thank this anonymous donor. Since you're here, Izuku, would you like to play something on the piano? It's been so long since I've heard you play. Are you sure you don't want to switch your major to music instead? Izuku lets out a humorless laugh. Sure. This isn't real, right? There's no way that this could possibly be real. Izuku walks over towards the piano and sits down on the stool. He lifts up the cover and presses his finger against one of the keys. It makes a sharp sound in the classroom. Stupid. So stupid. Izuku takes a sharp breath and presses his hands against the keys. He starts to play loud and fast, going faster and faster. It's been weeks since he's last touched a piano, but he hasn't become rusty at all. In fact, it sounds like he's become more in tune with the music as he plays all the frustrating feelings that's plaguing his heart. Izuku was breathing loudly, huffing and puffing inside of his home. He still hasn't calmed down. Not even the slightest did it feel like. As soon as he played until his fingers hurt, he bidded Professor Carroll a goodbye and then stomped outside of the school building. He called 𝐬𝐻�'s number immediately afterwards, but got his voicemail twice before finally leaving a message to have him call back as soon as he could. It was a kind of cryptic message since he didn't tell him the reason behind it, but Izuku didn't care. How could he do such a thing? Izuku growls out loudly and starts scrubbing even harder his bathroom tub. Whenever he gets mad, like really, really mad where he just can't sit down and calm down, Izuku cleans. He's already washed all his dishes, swept and mopped his floor, and cleaned the windows. He's moved on to the bathroom now and these stains did not stand a chance against him. His phone ringing is what saves him. Finally, Izuku shouts, getting off his hands and knees. He throws the sponge in the tub and tosses his gloves next, heading over towards his bed. His phone was lying on it charging and he snatched it up. He already knows it was 𝐬𝐻 because who else would be calling him? He sees 𝐬𝐻's name pop up and grinds his teeth a little bit as he answers it. Izuku, is 𝐬𝐻, are you an idiot? Excuse me, are you an idiot? I don't think that I am. I think I'm confused. Izuku takes a deep breath and sighs out. He sits down in bed and runs a hand down his face. That felt good to yell out. And it felt good to say it again, but twice was enough. Izuku's sense was coming back to him and he realized that yelling at 𝐲𝐸 over the phone probably wasn't the most sensible thing to do. "Where are you? I'm about to leave work right now, come over, bye." Izuku hangs up the phone and pouts to himself. He crosses his arms over his chest and his legs as well, glaring down at the phone. He hears it ring again, but Izuku ignores it completely. After a bit it stops ringing and a message comes up. Izuku flips his phone around and looks at it. "I'm on my way." He's getting off of work and coming straight here, right? Chances are that he probably hasn't had dinner yet. Izuku gets up and stomps over towards the kitchen, yanking the refrigerator door open. He'll make something nazi and burned and super duper spicy. Ha 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 ha. Izuku laughs evilly to himself. Although he doesn't actually do it, it was fun to imagine that he actually did. Izuku was a bit hungry as well. He didn't feel like doing anything fancy, so he just makes a huge fluffy omelet, whisking the eggs into a meringue state while yelling out loudly, and adding all kinds of things into it. Izuku looks up when he hears a knock on his door. He didn't think that much time had passed by, but he really got into his hateful cooking and he's made what looks like to be an army of omelets. Damn it, did he use up his entire carton of eggs? He just went shopping. Izuku grumbles as he walks over to the front door. He opens it up wide and glares at 𝐲𝐸 standing on the other side. The hero was surprised and actually looked a little fearful of him. Good. He was still dressed up in his hero uniform. No time to change as he grabbed his things and rushed straight over here. Izuku turns around and leaves the door open for him. He marches back to the kitchen and starts picking up the plates, placing them all down on the table. 𝐲𝐸 walks in cautiously, not saying a single word. Izuku grabs 2 pairs of chopsticks from the drawer and slams them onto the table before taking his seat. He grabs the closet omelet in front of him and cuts it with his chopsticks before taking a bite. 𝐲𝐸 gulps, not knowing how to proceed forward. Izuku glances up at him and narrows his eyes before looking over at the chair. 𝐲𝐸 immediately walks over and sits down on it. He was never trained for this. 𝐲𝐸 has faced dozens of villains, faced death right in the eyes, and he had no clue on what he should do right now. Thanks for the meal. 𝐲𝐸 picks up his chopsticks and starts to eat as well. Maybe Izuku was in such a bad mood because he was hungry because he felt better after clearing his plate. He pulls another one in front of him and licks his lips, eating that one as well. 𝐲𝐸, on the other hand, chews slowly. He stares down at his food and glances up at Izuku every chance he gets, wondering when he should try talking. He eats about half of his omelet before he sits up and clears his throat. Are we going to talk? Izuku looks at him. You called my phone and asked if I was an idiot. I didn't understand what you meant by that. I couldn't figure it out throughout the entire drive here. And did I do something wrong? Izuku swallows his bite. Do you know what happened today, 𝐲𝐸? Something that you got mad over. Izuku narrows his eyes. Don't patronize me. Sorry, I got an email this morning from my old music professor. She wanted to see me and I went to her new classroom and guess what I found there? I'll give you 3 chances, but I bet you can get it on your first try. I've already given you a huge hint. 𝐲𝐸 blinks, sitting up straighter as he places his chopsticks down. Did the piano come in today? I'm not sure if it was today, but I certainly saw it today, and it came with the most interesting letter attached to it. The hero's eyebrows furrow together as he frowns. I'm not understanding. Did they not allow you to play it? That was one of the conditions. Why did you buy a piano, 𝐲𝐸? Izuku explodes. It shocks him. 𝐲𝐸 doesn't think he's ever seen Izuku like this before. Mad, angry, actually raising his voice. Snippy, yes, but never like this. He jumps up a little bit as the gears start turning in his head. That's why you asked if I was stupid. He finally gets it. Yes, what in the world were you thinking? And attaching that note saying that I had full access to it. I don't understand you, 𝐲𝐸. I was trying to do something nice. Sending flowers is nice. Buying a $7,000 piano is so much more than nice. It was actually. Izuku narrows his eyes at him. You know what? The price doesn't matter. The only reason why Petunia got destroyed is because you risked your life to save me. You lost a friend trying to protect me, Izuku. I didn't think it would be that big of a problem. I already told you that you didn't need to make it up to me anymore, 𝐲𝐸. I actually had my assistant make the purchase after we went out to that diner for the first time. Before we had that conversation. When you told me the story and wondered where you were going to play now. I wanted to get it for you, Izuku. Izuku's face crumbles a little bit. Did you not like it? Is that why you're mad? 𝗵𝗃, of course I liked it, 𝐲𝐸. It was incredible, and it was really thoughtful of you. And actually hearing you confirm my theory that you did it all for me, because of one simple conversation we had for half an hour. I can't believe it. It's 𝐲𝐸's turn to narrow his eyes now. I don't understand then. Why are you so angry at me? Because. That was a good question. If 𝐲𝐸 would have bought that piano and gave it to the school with no note, without mentioning him personally, then Izuku wouldn't have had a problem. He was so mad because it was for him. because 𝐲𝗏 was doing this for him. He did all of this for him, and that's what was making him irritated, because it seemed like 𝐲𝗏 was that the two of them were. Izuku groans and covers his face with his hands. He's a terrible person. This isn't 𝐲𝗏's fault. He has no logical reason to be mad at the hero. This all has to do with him and his personal baggage that's making him like this. 𝐲𝗏 didn't deserve this. I'm sorry. Izuku apologizes. 𝐲𝗏 drops his guard down. You don't have to apologize if you don't think you're wrong, Izuku. Help me try to understand. I want to understand what I did wrong so I won't ever make you this upset again. Izuku doesn't want to be friends with 𝐲𝗏. He doesn't want to be friends with a hero. He wants his life to be hero-free. They've done nothing but bring him trouble in his life. Izuku hates heroes. He hates 𝐲𝗏, butting into his life, making him risk his life, never leaving him alone, bothering him all the time like this, buying expensive gifts now. When will it end? When will this all stop? He doesn't deserve his anger. Izuku doesn't want to care, but he does. He does feel bad. He does think he was wrong to approach this the way that he did, and that's the most messed up part. He cares about hurting this hero's feelings. I don't like you giving me gifts, 𝐲𝗏. That's the reason I was upset, because you're doing things for me. I don't like it. I shouldn't have yelled at you like I did, or called you stupid, so I am sorry for that. I do mean that. It wasn't just for you. It was for the school. Would you have done it if I hadn't told you that story, 𝐲𝗏? 𝐲𝗏 holds his tongue. Would you have done it for anyone else? Have you done that for anyone else in your entire hero career? He doesn't say anything. Don't treat me special, 𝐲𝗏. I don't want that. I don't want any special treatment from you. I don't want. He was going to say anything. It's on the tip of his tongue, but something is stopping him. I understand. I see now, Izuku. My apologies. I never meant to make you upset. That was never my intention. I know, 𝐲𝗏. You don't have to apologize. I wasn't lying before. What you did was very kind of you. You know, my professor was kind of sad because she wanted to thank you. So on behalf of Musutafu University, Professor Carol, and myself, thank you, 𝐲𝗏. Izuku meant to smile at the end, but he couldn't. He doesn't have any feelings to smile at him and make his thank you sound more sincere. 𝐲𝗏 meets his eyes and gulps lightly. You're welcome. Does this mean we're okay now? Yes. I'm not mad anymore. I'm sorry again. For calling you like I did, for hanging up on you, for forcing you to come over here, and feeding you spicy omelets. 𝐲𝗏 cracks a smile. Well, you can force feed me food anytime that you like. I actually like this kick. It's nice. From that smile, Izuku knows that everything is over now. There's a small calm that falls over him, but everything isn't all right. Izuku is still bothered deep down inside. He's mad at himself, but it doesn't have to do with 𝐲𝗏. It's about himself, and the choices he's making right now, and the words that he's refusing to say out loud. I promise I won't do any of this again. You can call me and ask me to come over whenever you want, Izuku. Just maybe don't answer the phone screaming. You gave me a small heartache. I was scared that you were in trouble or something. Izuku blushes softly and lowers his head. I'm sorry for worrying you. 𝐲𝗏 smiles lightly. I forgive you, Izuku. I promise I won't surprise you anymore. Why isn't he promising him not to give him any special treatment? To treat him special. Izuku looks up, but 𝐲𝗏 is looking down and eating his meal again. Maybe. It's nothing to worry about. Izuku made his point across. He knows he did, and he's tired of worrying over things now. He just wants to enjoy his meal, finish his cleanup in the bathroom, and then fall asleep. Looks like I've discovered another dish that will never taste the same to me again. Izuku smirks and rolls his eyes. Eat your food, 𝐲𝗏. Izuku's phone rings all of a sudden. He looks up from his notes and puts his laptop down, getting up to get it. His eyes widen slightly at the caller and he quickly runs to the TV to mute it before answering the phone. Hello, Mom. Izuku, it's so nice to hear your voice. I miss you so much. Izuku grins and laughs to himself. Hey Mom, I miss you too. I can't believe you're calling me. And you sound so clear too. I know, so do you. I'm calling from a landline now instead of my cell phone. Your father and I went down the mountain to the village at the bottom of it, and I'm actually inside of a market right now calling you. How have you been, Izuku? Great, Mom. There's been no trouble with my classes at all, and I'm passing all my tests and quizzes so far. Ah, that's my boy. You know you get all your smarts from me and not your father, right? Izuku laughs. Yes, Mom, I know. You've told me before. Good. Oh, sweetie, it's so nice to hear you. I'm sorry that it has been so long. If your father told me it was going to be this hard to call you, I never would have gone with him. Mom, come on. You and Dad deserve this vacation. The both of you worked too hard. I wouldn't have let you stay behind. I'm an adult now, remember? I can take care of myself. Cook my own meals, clean up my own apartment, wash my own laundry. You taught me well. I'm surviving, no, thriving. Ha ha ha, Izuku. I love you so much. I guess I did a good job as your mother, right? More than a good job. A great job. An excellent job. The best mom in the world. You have to say that because I'm your mother. Thank you though, Izuku. Izuku grins to himself and sits down on the couch. He gets comfortable as he sits back and lifts up his legs on the coffee table. So you have to tell me about your trip. What have you and Dad been doing lately? He isn't working too much, is he? You know your father. He said he'd only be working for the first week, but he's a workaholic. Matter of fact, he plans on extending our vacation for another week or so. That's the real reason I'm calling Izuku. I wanted to know if you would mind that or if you needed me back. Mom, what are you talking about? If you want to stay out there longer, of course you can. You don't need to ask, I'm fine. Sweetie, don't you remember what next week is? On the 20th. The 20th. Izuku narrows his eyes a little bit as he pulls his phone back. He checks the date, seeing them still in the second week of April. April. Oh no, how could he have forgotten? Izuku's smile falls off of his face as he stares at the date. Izuku, are you still there? Why yeah, I'm still here, Mom. I'm still here. I can come back. Your father won't mind it at all. I can come back and no, Mom, you don't have to. It's all right. I'm going to be just fine. Izuku, I don't want you to be alone. I'm not. I'm going to be with Auntie and Uncle, so I won't be alone. I'll come over to their place early in the morning and probably spend the night as well, so you won't have to worry, Mom. I'm going to be all right. I'm your mother. It's my job to worry. Well then don't worry too much. I can't believe it's been 6 years already. He would be 20 this year, the both of you in college, maybe even rooming together. Izuku takes a deep breath. He picks up his legs and hugs them into his chest, lowering his head down. I know, Mom. I think about that too sometimes. I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm a worrywart, but if you say you're going to be fine, then I'll believe you. I'll try calling you again that day. Okay, I'll look forward to it. I'm sure Auntie and Uncle will appreciate it. Sounds good, Izuku. So, you asked about my trip. I have some stories to tell you. Izuku talks to his mother for nearly an hour before the market she's in gets so crowded she can barely hear anything he's saying anymore. 𝐀𝐦 promises to call him back next week, and Izuku says his final goodbyes before he hangs up with her. Whatever mood he was in before she called him, he honestly can't remember what it was, is completely gone now. Izuku reaches for the remote and turns the TV off. He closes his laptop, turns off all the lights in his apartment, closes all the blinds, before crawling underneath his blankets. It was April. It was April. He never forgets, he's never forgotten once, but it must have been because so many things happened recently. The villain attack on his college, his near-death experience, 𝐲𝐸, all of that consumed his mind, distracted him, but not anymore. He's grateful for his mother for calling him and reminding him. April 20th. Was that a school day? Didn't matter if it was. Izuku would not be attending his classes. April 20th was a special day. He would have been turning 20. If only. If only. Izuku whimpers and squeezes his eyes shut. Memories flash inside his head and he buries his hands into his hair. How different would things have been? It was torture to think and imagine what his life would be like if he was still alive. But Izuku can't help it. Why was he the lucky one? Why did he survive? Alone? Why couldn't it have been the both of them? Izuku starts panting heavily, his breath coming out haggardly as his hands begin to tremble. His heart races inside of his chest and Izuku grinds his teeth together. It was his fault. It was all of their faults. I hate them. I hate them so much. I hate them. Izuku mutters those words to himself over and over again. There's a knock on his door. It's persistent. Izuku doesn't want to get out of bed. He opens his eyes and stares at the wall as he listens to the knocking. It stops after a while, but then his phone starts to ring out loudly. Izuku picks himself up from the bed and sits there on his butt. He stares out towards the window, a bit of sunlight leaking in from the closed blinds. His phone stops ringing and the door knocks again. Izuku puts his feet on the ground and walks over to the entrance. He undoes the top two locks slowly before reaching for the handle. Izuku twists it open and pulls his door towards him. Hello, he answers. 𝐲𝐸 stares at him, his eyebrows furrowing together as he stares down at him. His phone is in one of his hands and his fingers tighten around it. Izuku feels a little bit warmer all of a sudden. What's wrong? Sorry, 𝐲𝐸. I've been a little bit busy lately. I was going to return your call one day. Izuku talks slowly and precisely, like he has to think over every single word before he says it. 𝐲𝐸 outstretches his hand and puts it on his forehead. It feels really warm, and once he realizes he's using the wrong hand, he switches it. His forehead still feels warm. Are you sick, Izuku? Sick? Is that why he feels so terrible? He thought it was just because he returned back home. Then again, if his memory serves him right, he usually feels weak and a bit sickly after the 20th. I don't know. Please pardon my intrusion. You shouldn't be out of bed. Come on. 𝐲𝐸 kind of pushes his way inside and reaches for Izuku. He helps him walk back over towards his bed and lays him down in it, pulling the covers up to his chest. How do you feel, Izuku? Fine. I'm fine. Izuku blinks slowly. If you weren't fine, how else would you describe how you're feeling? Izuku hums, warm. A bit warm, and my head hurts. How long have you felt this way? I don't know. Have you eaten anything today? I don't know. 𝐲𝗏 growls out a little bit to himself. He disappears out of Izuku's view, but the boy doesn't really mind it. Maybe he's showing himself out. That would be nice. Then Izuku can go back to sulking and feeling sad for the next couple of days until he finally recovers. He always does at one point and continues on with his life, before a year passes and the cycle repeats itself all over again. Izuku, I'm sorry, but you can't go to sleep yet. You have to get some food and liquids in you. Here, drink this. 𝐲𝗏 sits Izuku up and holds a glass to his lips. His head tilts back as he feels something cold and refreshing pour down his throat. Ah, that's nice. Izuku can feel the liquid run down his throat and pool around in his stomach. I'm going to make you something to eat. All right. Can you stay up for a few more minutes for me? Please, 𝐲𝗏 asks softly. Izuku looks at him. He's showing so much emotion on his face right now. Usually he's like a closed book or something, always having a kind of stern and neutral expression on his face. 𝐲𝗏 reaches out and brushes his hair out of his face. Izuku leans into that touch and sighs out. Ah, that feels nice. Izuku, stay awake for me. Okay, 𝐲𝗏, I'll try. Thank you. Do you have any medicine here? Can you remember? Do you have a first aid kit or something? First aid? Try the bathroom. Somewhere. 𝐲𝗏 nods his head. All right, thank you, Izuku. Just sit there and relax. I'll be back. He'll be back. He's always coming back into his life. That isn't needed. Izuku tries shaking his head side to side. He doesn't know why it feels like he's doing it up and down. 𝐲𝗏's cool hand runs through his hair again, and that feels nice. You're going to have to deal with my terrible cooking. I apologize in advance. Don't worry though, Izuku. I'm going to take care of you. Izuku doesn't say anything. He stares off in the distance, feeling really warm right now. Really warm. Like he was buried under beach sand or something right now. He likes it. It's nice. Beach sand. Izuku smiles to himself and imagines the beach when he closes his eyes. Izuku can't move. He scrunches his face up together as he tries to move his arms, but they feel so heavy. He's also hot. Really, really hot right now. Izuku groans and finally opens his eyes. His vision is a little bit blurry, but when he blinks it for a while it gets better. He looks down and narrows his eyes. Why were there so many blankets on top of him? This is why he is burning up. Izuku shrugs to escape out of this blanket cocoon and pushes them off of him. He sits up in his bed, something wet falling on his lap. The wet towel. Why was that on him? Izuku turns his head to the side to look around his room and freezes for a second. What in the world is 𝐲𝗏 doing here? He was sitting a few feet away from him on a chair, snoozing away softly with his arms crossed over his chest. 𝐲𝗏, it hurts to talk out loud. Izuku spies a glass of water on his nightstand and reaches for it. He cradles it in his hand and lifts it up to his lips, drinking it all down. 𝐲𝗏, he tries calling out again. Much better. Izuku puts his feet down on the floor and leans over, tapping at 𝐲𝗏's knee. The hero jerks and jumps up, raising his hand in front of him as he goes on the offense. Izuku feels so slow right now he doesn't even have time to react. Not like he could do much to react though, since this was a pro hero and he was just a college student. 𝐲𝗏's eyes soften when he sees Izuku and calms down. He runs a hand through his hair and breathes out heavily. Sorry. Izuku shakes his head. You're okay. What exactly are you doing here, 𝐲𝗏? How long have you been here? 𝐲𝗏 looks around the apartment. What time is it? Izuku shrugs. He didn't even know what day it was. 𝐲𝗏 turns around and walks over towards the window. He pulls back the blinds and Izuku covers his eyes, being blinded for a second by the light. The hero looks outside and stares down the street. I think I might have slept here. Have you seen my phone? I don't know. I just woke up 2 seconds ago. 𝐲𝗏 moves around and tries to remember what he did with it. He spots his device on the counter and walks over towards it. Damn it, it was already 11. He had so many missed calls and messages. He didn't get any of them since his phone was on vibrate. 𝐲𝗏, did you break into my apartment? What? 𝐲𝗏 shouts a little, looking back at Izuku. No, of course not. You let me in. I did. Izuku rubs the top of his head. Yes, yesterday. Izuku mumbles now. He doesn't remember anything about yesterday. Not seeing 𝐲𝗏, or letting him in, or being conscious actually. 𝐲𝗏 heads back over towards him and takes a seat. He reaches out and places his hand against Izuku's forehead, feeling for his temperature. You feel normal now. Izuku, I came over to see you yesterday because you weren't answering any of my texts or calls. When I got here you were running a fever and said you were sick. I stayed here and helped take care of you. I didn't mean to spend the night. I might have dozed off watching over you though. Oh, sick. Is that why his body felt weak right now? Izuku gulps and places his own hand on his forehead. He didn't feel warm. He was sick yesterday. He didn't feel as bad today. Maybe it's a good thing you don't remember. I attempted to make rice porridge for you to eat yesterday. I owe you a new pot. Sorry. Izuku furrows his eyebrows together. What did you do to my pot? Left it over the fire for too long and burnt it. Don't worry, I will replace it. I'm so sorry. Izuku groans and runs his hands through his hair. Alright, so if he's understanding this correctly, he's sick right now. 𝐲𝐸 came over, took care of him, and now he's feeling better. How are you feeling, 𝐬𝐸? I'm late for work right now, but if you still aren't feeling well, I can stay or take you to the hospital, or call and wait until someone else comes here to be with you. I can call off work if no. No, 𝐲𝐸. I'm sorry for troubling you. I apologize, I didn't. I'm fine. I'm feeling much better today. Thanks to your help, it seems. You don't have to trouble yourself anymore. It wasn't any trouble, 𝐬𝐸. Are you sure? Yes, I think I'm going to go take a bath and change out of my clothes and take some medicine, but I do feel better. You don't have to worry anymore. 𝐲𝐸 stares into his eyes, really gazing into them, before he nods his head. Okay, I'll drop by after work to check on you. 𝐲𝐸, don't trouble, it's no trouble. Not at all, 𝐬𝐸. If you need anything, call me. Okay. I think there's still some leftovers of the porridge I made in the fridge if you don't feel well enough to cook. Don't push yourself, 𝐬𝐸. You'll never get better that way. Yes, go now before you're even later. 𝐲𝐸 nods his head and walks over to 𝐬𝐸. He raises his hand and places it on top of his hair. 𝐲𝐸's fingers run through his hair side to side before he pulls it away. Take care, 𝐬𝐸. I'll see you soon. 𝐬𝐸 freezes for a second. His body doesn't unwind until he hears 𝐲𝐸 leaving his apartment. Slowly he lifts up his hand and runs his fingers through his hair. It wasn't the same sensation as it felt when 𝐲𝐸 did it. Was it because of his hot quirk? Or maybe his cold one? 𝐬𝐸 didn't know. Maybe he was still sick. He picks himself up and heads over to the bathroom. Hopefully a nice hot bath and some food will make him feel better, and if not, he can always take more medicine and knock out for the rest of the day. Being sick sucks. 𝐬𝐸 has his hands occupied when he hears a knock on his front door. Come in, he shouts out, hoping that 𝐲𝐸 would be able to hear him. If he doesn't, he's just going to have to wait until 𝐬𝐸 is finished washing all of these dishes. He hears the door open up and hopes that it's actually 𝐲𝐸 and not a robber or nosy neighbor or something. Maybe he should have checked 𝐬𝐸. Never mind, he's lucky this time. In here. 𝐲𝐸 walks into the room and heads for the kitchen. What are you doing? You should be in bed resting. I was, for a good part of the day. And now I'm cleaning up. These dishes weren't going to wash themselves, and I hate having a dirty kitchen. 𝐲𝐸 places the bags he has on the counter before walking over. Here, allow me. It's all right, 𝐲𝐸. I'm almost done. You're sick. What did I say about pushing yourself? I can wash some dishes, 𝐬𝐸. Let me do them. 𝐬𝐸 turns his head as he lifts up a plate. Too late. Last one. 𝐲𝐸 looks stubbornly at him. I can at least rinse them. He walks over to the sink and turns on the water, wetting the soapy dishes and placing them on the rack. 𝐬𝐸 takes a deep breath and sighs out as he tugs at the drain. All the sink starts to drain away, and he places his soap in the little basket before taking his dishwashing gloves off and hanging those up as well. How are you feeling? Better. Still don't remember anything that happened yesterday, but I'm positive I'll be able to go to school tomorrow. That's good. If you can't though, you shouldn't push yourself. 𝐬𝐸 hums and turns away. He spies bags on the counter and walks over, looking at them curiously. Is this all yours? What did you bring? 𝐲𝐸 dries his hands off on the towel before turning around. Dinner, and some supplies, and a new pot for you. 𝐬𝐸 blinks. Did you just say dinner? Yeah, you haven't eaten yet, have you? I asked my coworker for a good meal that fights against colds and she recommended this restaurant to me. They specialize in soups and broths and she swears that it's really good for you, so I picked up a couple of times. I wasn't sure which ones you would like. I also stopped by the store and picked up some more medicine for you since I noticed yesterday you were running out. I bought the pot from a superstore. Sorry again for ruining your last one. 𝐲𝐸 takes each item he describes out of the bag until they're all out displayed in front of 𝐬𝐸. He blinks as he stares down at everything before looking up at 𝐲𝐸. Why did you do all of this? Because you were sick and needed someone to take care of you. It sucks being sick, especially when you're all alone. I didn't want you to suffer, 𝐬𝐸. 𝐬𝐸 blinks at him before looking back down. I'll pay you for all of this. You don't have to, I will. How about you repay me by getting better as quickly as you can? Not pushing yourself and resting when you need to. And maybe a meal or two. 𝐬𝐸 pouts out his bottom lip. His brain hurts too much to think right now, so he reaches for one of the soup containers and takes off the lid. A heavenly aroma hits his nose and he takes a deep breath in. Oh wow, this smells amazing. I'm glad you think so. You didn't have dinner yet? No, I was planning on ordering takeout. Sit down at the table, I'll serve us. All right, 𝐲𝐸. 𝐬𝐸 gathers up all the medicine and places it back in the bag, heading over towards the bathroom. He restocks his cabinet before he makes his way towards the table. 𝐲𝐸 didn't have any problem finding the bowls or the spoons. Everything was all washed and ready for him right in the dish rack. He walks over to the table and places 2 bowls in front of 𝐬𝐸. Here, try them and see which one you like better. I believe one is a spicy bone soup and the other is similar to chicken or duck soup. I don't remember honestly, I just ordered the most popular ones. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 looks at the two bowls. One had a darker broth to it. That one had to be the spicy one. He's been burning up all day today, so maybe he should stay away from that one. The other one did have the same broth as chicken noodle soup. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 dips his spoon in and takes a small sip. His face turns red and he coughs out loudly. 𝐬𝐻𝐸, what's wrong? Spicy. That was the cough spicy. It tricked me. And that wasn't just spicy. It tasted like they threw the entire bottle of hot sauce or a handful of chili peppers inside. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 pulls over the other bowl and takes a sip. It's warm and soothing and doesn't make him cry at all. I want this one please, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 says, blinking his tears away. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 chuckles as he drags over the other bowl. You don't like spicy food, I'll remember next time. I like spicy food. I don't know what in the world that was though. I think it tasted good, but I can't tell anymore. It might have burned my taste buds away. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 dips his spoon in and takes a sip. His face tightens up a bit, but he doesn't freak out as much as 𝐬𝐻𝐸 did. It's interesting. It's a punch to the face. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 snorts. I wouldn't go that far. I think I would rather get punched in the face. Make sure you take that one with you when you go. I don't want to be fooled again and die in my apartment. Will do, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. It doesn't really look like it has a kick, but the smell might be a giveaway. I like it. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 hums and nurses his soup, taking long sips. He likes this one. He feels better already. It's a great feeling having the warm soup run down his throat. It's clearing his nose and warming up his bones. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 smiles as he eats. Where did you say you got this from again? It was a little shop owned by an elderly couple. I don't remember the name, but it was right by Tanaka Park tucked away in the corner. Oh, I know that place. They have flea markets there on the weekends. So if you walk in the opposite direction of the train station and cross the street, it's this tiny building with a red and white wooden sign right outside. I'll definitely have to go there. This tastes delicious. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 looks over at him and smiles lightly. I'm glad. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 takes more sips while 𝐲𝐻𝐸 stirs his around a bit. He glances up at the college student, noticing how he does seem to be better now. He actually had an appetite where last night it was a struggle making him eat a couple of bites. There was color in his cheeks and he seemed aware of what was going on. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 sighs out a bit in relief to himself. I was only 3.5 hours late to work this morning. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 tries making small talk. I think it surprised my coworkers more than anything else. I'm normally on time and never miss a single day, or take vacations for that matter, so no one was mad. They were all just curious as to why I had come in later. Kirishima, he's the hero Red Riot. He started making bets in the agency on what it was that made me late and 𝐲𝐻𝐸. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 interrupts him. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 stops talking and looks at him. Could we talk about a different topic? Sure, 𝐲𝐻𝐸 says slowly. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 nods his head. Not looking up from his meal, thanks. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 doesn't know what to say for a moment. He was planning on telling 𝐬𝐻𝐸 about his day, because that seemed the easiest. And he thought he might have been curious if he got in trouble or not because he did send him on his way. But it appears that wasn't the case. He had no idea that the last thing that 𝐬𝐻𝐸 wanted to hear about was anything that was related to pro heroes. He would rather be force-fed that spicy broth than hear 𝐲𝐻𝐸 talk to him about heroes. Hey, have you checked out his feed? Of course I have. Who do you think you're talking to? I've been stalking him ever since he made that surprise appearance at our school. So do you think that what the forum posted up is telling the truth? I don't want it to be. But look at all the evidence supporting it. They were adding links to pictures and videos. My heart is literally breaking right now. This is why you shouldn't fall for heroes. Chances of them ending up with normal people are completely zero. There must be a secret hero or something attending here. Heroes always marry other heroes. Nah, Captain Fireball didn't marry another hero. Yeah, he only married a supermodel. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 taps his pencil on his notebook as he watches the professor explain the equation on the board. He doesn't exactly hear him all that well because of the two girls gossiping behind him. They're lucky that 𝐬𝐻𝐸 already knows how to do all of this otherwise. Probably nothing. He probably wouldn't have said anything to them and simply tried not to sit anywhere near them in their next class. 𝐲𝐻𝐸 totally doesn't seem like the dating type. How could he be with someone? I know, that icy cool facade that he always has when he's out doesn't really give people the chance to flirt with him. I wonder what type of person he's dating. Do you think he's actually sweet with them? Or does he treat his lover the same exact way? 𝐬𝐻𝐸's pencil stops tapping. He stares blankly at the board, not exactly computing anything. Hey, do you think it might have been that person that was seen talking to him a couple of weeks ago? Maybe. There was a theory about that on the forum. There's so many 𝐲𝐻𝐸 ones now it's hard to tell which one is legit or not. I mainly get my information from the 𝐡𝐻𝐸 Lovers Unite one. They actually fact-check and have online sources rather than rumors and speculations. Oh 𝐲𝐻𝐸, what I would do to have him save me and hold me in his arms just once. Do you think he would be warm or cold? I don't know. What I'm wondering is why he's keeping this new relationship a secret. I know if I was dating one of the hottest heroes out there, I would be posting it online for everyone to see. Haha, seconded. You couldn't keep me from shutting up. Ladies, is there something you would like to share with the class? Nothing, ma'am. Yes, sorry, Professor Leela. Very well then. How would one of you like to finish this problem on the board, since it seems that you two already know everything? Izuku swallows down saliva. What the two of them were talking about. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 had a lover. He was dating someone. Izuku hadn't heard about that. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 never mentioned anything to him, and they practically talk every single day. It was not like that was ever brought up though. They don't talk about love. They talk about random things like the weather and what they did, mainly about Izuku's life since he can't stand hearing anything in 𝐲𝐻𝐬's. Is that probably why? Because Izuku never asked. How would he be dating someone though if he's working all the time and visiting him on his days off? That isn't making sense time-wise. Izuku has been trying not to spend too much time with him, like always, so maybe on those days they're not together he's having a love life? Why is he even thinking this hard about this? 𝐲𝐻𝐬's free and allowed to do whatever he so desires and wants. It's weird. He's never heard anything about this, and the reason for that is because he doesn't follow hero news or reports. He always changes the channel when heroes show up, and he goes out of his way to make sure that there are no heroes entering his life. Izuku wastes the rest of his class thinking about this subject. He doesn't hear the professor dismissing them, but instead hears chairs scraping against the floor. Izuku leaves his last class for the day and has his head down as he heads for the bus stop. What was the forum that girl said it was called? 𝐲𝐻𝐬 Lovers Unite. Izuku pulls out his phone and opens up his college app. He types in the group name and it's one of the first ones that appear. What is this? There's a whole bunch of comments, people posting up every second it seems. Izuku clicks the options button and makes it so he can only see the original creator's posts. The last thing that was posted was a small video. Izuku looks up and waits until he's sitting at the bus stop before taking out his earphones. He plugs it up into his phone and taps on the video. It loads for a second before a news logo appears on screen. So today's fresh and hot topic is about the hero that we all know and love, 𝐲𝐻𝐬. He's in the top 10 rookies, isn't he, Yami? He certainly is Yachi, and it's no surprise being the son of the number 2 hero Endeavor. That's going to be some friendly family rivalry once 𝐲𝐻𝐬 gets more experience being a pro hero. He's been a part of the Might Tower agency for nearly 2 years now, but first debuted as a first year in high school, correct? Yes, but we're not here to talk about 𝐲𝐻𝐬's hero life. Today's segment is all about his life. What am I watching? Izuku pauses the video and clicks the bottom of the screen. It's 7 minutes long. He moves the video forward until a picture of 𝐲𝐻𝐬 appears on screen. Hello, we all remember this young couple, don't we? Oh hell yeah. 𝐸𝐸. I was a huge fan of them. As we all were, Yami, as we all were. But sadly that ship never sailed, as it was later revealed that 𝐀𝐦 was dating Earphone Jack. Yeah, I shipped them a little bit more. I was still disappointed though. As we all were. This was the first speculated lover that we had for 𝐲𝐻𝐬. It turns out they were just really good friends. Izuku frowns to himself. Is this entire video only about 𝐲𝐻𝐬 and people he may or may not have dated? He starts to fast forward again, stopping when he recognizes a jacket on screen. That's his jacket. He goes back a little bit and continues to let the video play. So this was just in. Remember how a bunch of heroes went out and attacked Musutafu University? Yes, it was such a travesty. Thank goodness not many people were hurt. Well, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 happened to be one of those heroes protecting the school. There is video of him in the beginning of the fight. But later on he suddenly disappears and doesn't get shown again until he's escorting Gold Bomber towards the police. When interviewed and asked about it, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 always responded with no comment. Ooh, secretive. Exactly, and then look at this picture. Apparently, a few weeks later, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 showed up again at the very same school and talked to this student and this student only for a certain amount of time before leaving. Well, it must be love. Haha, I think we're jumping the gun here, Yami, but there is something definitely going on. No news had been talked about this student. The picture isn't the best, as I'm sure everyone was starstruck about seeing the hero, and even the student hasn't posted up anything on social media either that matches this, so they're keeping it a secret. Their love affair, one would think, but we also have pictures of 𝐲𝐻𝐬 leaving his agency and driving in the complete opposite way of his home. The paparazzi are evil, but they really do get some juicy shots. Look at this right here. He's out buying food for way more than one person. Ooh, 𝐲𝐻𝐬, you have some explaining to do. We've heard from secret sources as well that 𝐲𝐻𝐬 has been seen out on his days off spending time with a certain figure. Our hero is always in disguise, of course, but the person in these pictures seems to be the same height and built, hanging out in areas that 𝐲𝐻𝐬 visits frequently. So our young hero is experiencing his first dates. Izuku pauses the video. He rewinds back to the pictures shown and narrows his eyes a little bit. Some of them he doesn't recognize, but this one right here. That's him in the picture. His head is kind of blurry, but the shirt he's wearing with the Japanese kanji for hello. People were watching them, took pictures of them, thought that they were involved together. Izuku's cheeks turn pink and he shakes his head a bunch of times. He scrolls through the other posts, seeing more pictures and videos of that one day 𝐲𝐸 came to visit him at school. There were theories posted up about secret lovers and crazy things like that, and even pictures of 𝐲𝐸's car driving around streets that were close to where Izuku lived. Did they know where he lived? What in the world did he just discover? He knows that heroes are idolized in their society. He knows that. People think that heroes can do no harm, but that isn't true. Heroes are there. Izuku squeezes his grip on his phone. He lowers his head down as his breathing comes out raggedly in quick pants. People are starting to notice him. They're going to start noticing him and associating him with 𝐲𝐸, the hero, because they're hanging out. Izuku has to stop this. He has to stop this. He wants his days to continue like they've always been. Quiet, peaceful, alone. He wants to remain alone. He can't handle it if that changes. Izuku swallows down spit and stares at his phone. He doesn't know why. It's making him upset to do such a thing, but he continues to look through the forum and read all the posts. For the first time ever, Izuku actually looks up a hero and tries to learn more about them. Did you want to hang out this weekend? Izuku stares blankly at the text message. He opens it up and starts to write back his reply. No, thank you. Busy. I think that the two of us need a break for a while. Izuku waits for a message to be sent back. It isn't instant. It happens after a while. What do you mean? Did I do something wrong? Izuku sighs out as he pushes his textbook out of his lap and lays down on the bed. No, don't you think we've been getting together a lot recently? Yeah, so, I don't see a problem with that. I like hanging out with you and you like hanging out with me. What's wrong with that? I mean that people are starting to notice. People? What people? You're not making any sense. Izuku sighs out to himself. Of course it wouldn't make sense for someone like him who is constantly being watched by others. He's probably used to it and has grown to ignore the attention. But isn't the same way. His phone buzzes multiple times as he gets so many messages from 𝐲𝐸 all at once. Are you talking about at school? Or has someone been bothering you lately? Can you hold on for a bit? I can't call you now, but I will in a little while. No, Izuku doesn't want to talk to him. He's figured out that he has trouble saying what he really wants to the hero in person, so messaging is easier for him to get his point across. 𝐲𝐸, it's not that. It's just recently I saw a video and pictures of you and some of them included me in it. No one has figured out who I am yet, but people at my school are still talking about when you came over to visit me. It's a lot, 𝐲𝐸. I'm worried that they're going to find out about me and I don't want to be the center of attention like that. I think that it would be best if we just stayed away from each other for a while until people stop questioning it. Izuku, it's never going to stop. It's never going to be the top topic either though. I'm a hero. This is the life that I live. I'm not the only hero out there. Sure, you saw a trend of me, but it'll be gone and moved on to the next trend before you know it. You're not understanding. Izuku sighs out. What could he text back? If it isn't going to stop, they should never see each other again. Izuku huffs. If only it would be that easy. I'm scared. Not completely, but yeah, he is scared. Of his life changing, of his routine, and his world. He doesn't want any of that to change, as impossible as that might sound. Izuku had a plan and he wasn't going to stand out in life. What he was doing now, what he's been doing ever since he first saved 𝐲𝐸, ever since that day his life has been spiraling out of control. I'm sorry, Izuku. There's no reason for you to be scared. Nothing is going to happen to you. I swear I will protect you. I'm sorry that this has gotten you spooked. I can try being more stealthy when I come to visit you and be more in disguise when we're out. I'll look into what's been posted about us and talk with my assistant to see what things can be done to prevent them. There's nothing you have to be scared about, Izuku. You shouldn't be afraid to live your life and do what you want because of other people. Izuku reads through the text slowly. He gets another one a minute later. If you really want to not see each other for a while though, I will respect your wishes. Whatever will make you most comfortable. Izuku, I'll do what you want. Thank you, 𝐲𝐸. Just for a week or so. Okay, I understand. I have to go now. Bye. Izuku frowns to himself. This is what he wanted, right? So why isn't he happy right now? He's finally gotten 𝐲𝐸 out of his hair. For the next week, or maybe even 2 if he really wants to push it, he doesn't have to worry about seeing him or meeting him. No one will be creating new gossip. No new pictures taken, nothing like that at all. He'll be able to live his life like usual, alone, as it should be, as I should always be. Izuku has been holding his breath. That's the only way he knew how to describe it. He's been holding his breath for so many days now. It was like someone flipped a switch and turned his life into overdrive. Overnight his life got so busy. Problems one after one started rising up out of nowhere. School got intense. He had surprise tests the entire week. Couldn't learn the new lessons as quickly as he normally does and was struggling, and had so many group projects out of nowhere where he had to talk to other people. It was awful. It was not only that. 𝐬𝐡𝐚𝐭 had to go back home and look after his parents' place, but completely forgot the key at his apartment. There was never a landlord there to let him in when he needed one to be, and no one else had a key except for his parents, who were still out vacationing. When he went back to get it, he found out that he had lost it completely, only for it to actually be in one of his jean pockets after tearing up his entire apartment searching for it. His parents also decided suddenly to call him every single day to check up on him. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 loved hearing from them, but his week had been such a whirlwind that he didn't have time to relax. He barely had time to eat, and whenever he tried to, he was never hungry. He had to force himself to eat his meals or else he would have passed out. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 was a wreck. He looked more terrible than he had in a long time, and it was barely becoming June now. How was he going to survive the rest of the year, let alone the end of the semester? He couldn't breathe. He kept holding onto it and didn't know how to exhale. Not at home, not on his days off, not even in his sleep. It was terrible. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 didn't know what was wrong. The days kept moving past him and he kept feeling like it was only getting worse. Luckily, he didn't have to deal with 𝐲𝐡𝐢 on top of all of this. He texted him a little bit in the beginning, but now it's been several days since they've last talked to each other. Maybe it'll stay like this, and then over time they'll forget about each other and whatever they were doing will fade out of existence. That only took, about 2 months. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 couldn't believe he held his interest for that long. Was that what it was? It was strange because now 𝐬𝐡𝐚 was doing something that he never wanted to do or thought he would actually do. Whenever he would take the bus ride home, for that short little 20 or 30 minutes, he'd check that damn 𝐲𝐡𝐢 for him. It was his only way of knowing if this distant thing was working, and recently it had started talking more about the heroic things 𝐲𝐡𝐢 has been doing rather than who he's been hanging around with lately. At least one thing in 𝐬𝐡𝐚's life was going right. Not even playing Petunia 2 was making his days better. Whenever he'd play her, his music was always off, like he was playing in the wrong tune or something. His music never sounded like he wanted it to, it was all blocked off. Every time 𝐬𝐡𝐚 stared at that damn piano, it would remind him of 𝐲𝐡𝐢. He hadn't gone back to play with her in a couple of days. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 didn't see the point. He couldn't play anymore, so why try and fail? He doesn't know why, but his life felt like it was going all to shit. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 just wants to sleep and wake up when it is all better. Next month it will be. Next month his semester will be over. Next month his parents will be coming home. Next month he'll have 3 weeks off after his finals. Why couldn't it be this month though? 𝐬𝐡𝐚 drags his feet up towards his apartment door and lets himself in. He drops all of his things down on the floor and falls down on his couch, not even bothering to get undressed or take his jacket off. He kicks his shoes off and reaches for the remote. He needs to turn his brain off for a little while. He needs to forget all about everything and just turn his mind to mush. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 turns the TV on and flips through the channels. His finger hesitates when he sees 𝐲𝐡𝐢's face. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 blinks and stares at the screen. It was showing clips, maybe, of 𝐲𝐡𝐢 fighting some sort of villain. It looked bright and sunny on the screen. Today wasn't bright and sunny for 𝐬𝐡𝐚. Where was this weather earlier in the day for him? The hero 𝐲𝐡𝐢 stayed behind for crowd control, and we were able to get this exclusive interview with him. The screen changes to just 𝐲𝐡𝐢's face on his television. 𝐲𝐡𝐢, would you be able to answer a few questions for us? 𝐲𝐡𝐢 scrunches his face on the screen before he answers with a yes. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 laughs once. He obviously didn't want to say yes, but for some reason did. She starts asking 𝐲𝐡𝐢 questions about the villain attack, and 𝐬𝐡𝐚 lifts up the remote. He doesn't know why he's watching this. It isn't turning his brain to mush. Strangely though, it isn't making him mad either. Usually he can never watch the news because they are always reporting non-stop on heroes, and it makes his skin crawl. 𝐲𝐡𝐢, would you like to make a comment about the rumors that have been circulating about you and a secret lover? 𝐬𝐡𝐚's finger twitch. All of them are false. I'm currently not dating or seeing anyone romantically at all. All I've been doing on my days off has been hanging out with friends and relaxing. What about the pictures of you visiting someone at 𝐬𝐡𝐚 University? What about it? I was patrolling around that area and checking to see if that person needed help. He seemed distressed, but that wasn't the case, so I left. I was simply doing my job. Excuse me, I'm afraid I have to leave now. 𝐲𝐡𝐢. Well, there you have it, people, straight from the horse's mouth. Back to you, Edia. 𝐲𝐡𝐢 disappears from view and it returns back to the 2 people at the news station. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 mutes the TV and rolls over on his back. He throws his arm over his eyes and breathes out loudly. He didn't mean to call me a friend. That must have been a slip of his tongue. It had to be. The 2 of them weren't friends. That was impossible. 𝐬𝐡𝐚 didn't consider him a friend at all, so there was no reason for 𝐲𝐡𝐢 to consider him one either. What the 2 of them have been doing recently, well, yeah, sure, it could be considered as things friends would do, but that wasn't the case for them. Friends? Yeah, right. I'd never be friends with a hero. This is bothering 𝐬𝐡𝐚. It's really bothering him. He never should have watched that interview. Why did he do it? Why did he lie like that? Friends, he said friends. Maybe 𝐲𝐡𝐢 was hanging out with other people he actually considered friends. 𝐬𝐡𝐚's heart races inside of his chest. He's going crazy right now. It has to be because of the lack of sleep, the fact that he hasn't had a decent meal in days, and all the stress he's going through right now, but he can't let go of this fact. He's becoming obsessed with it. He has to know. He's not going to do what he did last time though and call him yelling at him. No, he's going to do this calmly, smartly, adultly. He'll invite 𝐲𝐸 over and have an adult conversation with him. Yes, that's what he'll do. This is something he can fix right now so he won't stress about it later. Izuku digs his cell phone out of his backpack and looks for 𝐲𝐸's number. He calls him and holds his phone to his ear. It rings and rings before he finally picks up. Hello Izuku. 𝐲𝐸, hi. Can you come over? 𝐲𝐸, are you still there? You want me to come over? Yes. Now? Yes. Am I not speaking? Izuku bites his bottom lip. Calmly, like an adult. Don't explode. Yes, please. I want you to come over. I want to see and talk with you. Can you do it? Yeah, I'll head straight over. 𝐲𝐸's voice sounds so warm in his ear as he says those words that Izuku feels warm all over his body as well. Do you want me to bring anything? No. Have you eaten dinner yet? Unfortunately, yes, I have. That's fine. We'll just talk. Let yourself in. The door will be unlocked. Bye. Bye, Izuku. I'll see you soon. The both of them hang up the phone and already Izuku feels better. He huffs and heads towards his bedroom, wanting to change out of his clothes and clean up a bit before 𝐲𝐸 comes over. Just because he's eaten dinner doesn't mean he can't take anything back home with him to eat later. Izuku is going to cook up something. He feels his stomach growling a little bit, actually having an appetite. Dress, cook, and clean, he mumbles to himself. Hopefully by the time he's done 𝐲𝐸 will be here and they can finally set things straight. There is a knock on his door before he hears a voice calling out to him. Izuku, I'm coming in. Izuku leaves his bedroom and walks the short trip to his living room. Kitchen. He sees 𝐲𝐸 taking his shoes off before pausing when their eyes meet. It's strange. He just saw him, but there was something different about seeing him in person and seeing him on TV. Hey 𝐲𝐸. 𝐲𝐸 stands up straighter and smiles a bit. Hello Izuku. Izuku's throat feels a little dry all of a sudden. He swallows down saliva and looks away. Would you like something to drink? No thank you, I'm fine for now. How have you been? Like hell. Fine. And yourself? 𝐲𝐸 rubs the back of his neck as he walks over, a bit rough. These past couple of days have been busy at work. They've just been busy. I was surprised that you called me. It's been so long since we last chatted. I just figured you might have been busy as well. Yeah, just a bit. Do you want to sit down? Izuku motions over to his couch. 𝐲𝐸 accepts the invitation and walks over, sinking down into the sofa cushions. He breathes out softly through his nose and Izuku moves to sit on the couch as well next to him. He tucks his feet underneath his butt and hugs a couch cushion to his chest. He planned on drilling 𝐲𝐸 as soon as he came in, but he looked just as bad as Izuku did, maybe even worse. He was busy, that's why the messages stopped coming, but why was he surprised that Izuku called him first? How come you were surprised that I called you? Izuku asks. 𝐲𝐸 smirks a little bit as he looks at him. Because you never call me, except for that one time where you asked me if I was an idiot then hung up. I was kind of afraid to pick up, wondering what you would yell at me this time. Izuku's cheeks blush, his eyes looking away as he's flooded with embarrassment. I apologized for that and promised not to do it again. I know, I'm teasing you. I'm happy you called Izuku. I really missed seeing you. Izuku swallows. Have things gotten better at your school since? Why yeah, there has been less interest about it. I knew there would be. Such is the life of a hero. But if it brought you any peace of mind then it was worth it. No matter how torturous it might have been. 𝐲𝐸 mumbles the last part to himself. What was that? Nothing important. I was careful making my way over here, so you shouldn't worry about this visit. Is there something that you need from me, Izuku? For you to call me over here like this, I know there's something that you want to discuss. What's wrong? What can I do to help you? 𝐲𝐸 asks him. Izuku is a little bit grateful for that because he just set him up to ask his question. He gets a stern look on his face as he faces 𝐲𝐸 and stares into his eyes. I was watching the news earlier and saw your interview after you fought that villain. 𝐲𝐸 blinks softly, eyes widening up. Really? Izuku nods his head. Yes. There was something that you said that really bothered me and I've been in a terrible, well, not terrible, but just awful weird unhappy mood since that I haven't been able to let go. That's why I called you and invited you over 𝐲𝐸. You told that newscaster when she asked about the rumors around you that you were just hanging out with friends and not dating anyone, right? 𝐲𝐸's eyes stay wide as he nods his head, a little bit scared to answer this. Why yes. You've only been hanging out with me though recently, unless it was after we stopped seeing each other, but you just said work has been really busy so that couldn't have been the case. You were talking about me, weren't you? I was. It would have sounded suspicious if I said I was hanging out with a single friend all this time, so I tried to make it less. Izuku narrows his eyes at him. Why did you call me your friend? I don't get it. I don't understand why you would and it's bothering me. I mean I can see why with the things we've been doing together, but I always thought. In my mind we've always been. I'm sorry Izuku. I thought this is what you wanted though. If I suddenly confessed my feelings about you on live television, don't you think you would have been bothered and whispered about a lot more? What the hell? Izuku's eyes widen and his jaw drops. What is happening right now? What did 𝐲𝗏 just say all of a sudden? He was talking about friendship and all of a sudden he's dropping a giant bomb like that. Feelings. What feelings? 𝐲𝗏 stares at him. My feelings. Isn't that why you're mad? Because I called you a friend instead of someone I'm romantically interested in and am maybe dating. I admit I'm kind of oblivious when it comes to dating, but you like me, 𝐲𝗏. Izuku yells out at the top of his lungs. He jumps off the couch like it's suddenly made out of lava. Izuku's entire face turns red. Scratch that. His entire body from head to toe resembles the color of a tomato. 𝐲𝗏 slowly stands up, severely confused right now. He takes a step forward, but Izuku runs away from him and takes a step back. Yes, I like you. I thought I was being obvious. Izuku, what did you think we were talking about? Why you called me your friend? I didn't know that you liked me. I didn't know that you thought we were dating. Why do you think that? 𝐲𝗏 flinches. I didn't want to assume, but I just thought. Did you really not know that I was interested in you? 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗍𝗍𝗏𝗧. Weird. My friends were all saying that it was obvious, but I guess they've known me for half a decade now. Well, I had hoped to confess in a better way than this and not completely make you freak out. My apologies, but I like you, Izuku. I'd like for us to date. I know that doesn't seem all that appealing with how much trouble it may cause you in the future, but I promise to protect you and make sure no harm comes to you. 𝐲𝗏, no 𝐲𝗏, you're misunderstanding. You're not, I don't like you back at all, Izuku shouts. He's really freaking out right now. He can't control his voice at all. His heart is beating inside of his chest rapidly, and he can't catch his breath. This is the first time Izuku has ever been confessed to, and he doesn't like this. He doesn't like this at all. He hates it, in fact, and he wishes he never made that stupid phone call and would have forgotten about all of this. Oh, but I thought. I must have been misreading the signs. Izuku nods his head up and down several times. Yes, clearly you have been. There is no way in heck that Izuku would ever fall for a hero, let alone date one, be friends with one, be seen with one, anything that has to do with a hero, anything that. 𝐲𝗏 looks heartbroken for a second before his face returns back to normal. That's all right. Izuku has nothing to feel guilty about. None of this was his fault. Now that everything's out in the air, he has a real reason to never see 𝐲𝗏 again. He'll say something like "I'll see," excuse himself, and then they'll never see each other again because Izuku rejected him. He was finally getting rid of him, for good this time. I'm sorry, Izuku. I hope I didn't burden you with my feelings. If you don't feel the same way, you don't have to reciprocate them. We can pretend this never happened and remain friends if that is what you wish. Izuku flinches. That word, that damn word. Why does he keep using that word? What are you talking about? Why do you want to be friends? I rejected you. Shouldn't you never want to see me again? Why are you still trying to be a part of my life? Because Izuku not being able to have the relationship I hope for is sad. But never having any type of relationship with you at all is heartbreaking. I don't want you out of my life. I like you way too much for that. Even if we can't be together, I still want you in my life because I've never met a person like you before. I'd rather have you as a friend than as nothing at all. Izuku closes his eyes tightly, feeling his cheeks so hot you could probably cook an egg on them. He hunches over and shakes his head at 𝐲𝗏, clenching his hands together tightly. I don't understand. Why do you even like me? Why? There's nothing about me that you should like. There's nothing about me that would make anyone fall for me. So how did you even get these feelings in the first place? I wasn't tricking you. I wasn't trying to make you fall for me. This is not my fault. You're my type, Izuku. Izuku pauses, opening his eyes up. He slowly lifts his head and stares over at 𝐲𝗏. What does that mean? Exactly as it sounds. When we first met, I didn't get a good look at you. I had no idea why you were carrying me. I just told you to run so I could protect you. I didn't even know what happened. So after everything settled down, I went to visit you at the hospital. Well, you were really cute when you were sleeping. Kind of reminded me of a fluffy bunny. I stayed there to try and find out what happened, and when you told me everything, I learned how courageous you are. Even though you were scared, you still risked your life to protect me. And that's another quality that I liked about you. I didn't want this to be the last time we saw each other, so I came back to visit you again, and I was finding myself worrying about you more than I should have. I found myself wanting to see you more than was normal. You really caught my interest, Izuku, because I happened to be good looking to you and save your life. Izuku shakes his head. No, those weren't the only reasons. I've been saved before by my friends, and I've never fallen for any of them. It was more than that. It was the fact that you were quiet and soft-spoken, but you had a fire and spark inside of you that could come out at any moment. It was the fact that you tried to be independent and always be proud, and how stubborn you are as well. It's the fact that you nearly cried when a piano got destroyed because you loved her and called her Petunia. It was all those things and more, Izuku. So much more. The way you cared about me, cooked for me, looked out for me. I was desperate to keep you in my life. I never found myself trying so hard to reach for something that I wanted. I was probably making a fool of myself, always being the first to message and call you and ask you to hang out. But that's how much I wanted you, 𝐬𝐻𝐬. That's how much I like you, because I do. I treated you special because I wanted you to be my special someone. His head and his heart hurt. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 realizes why he's been having such a terrible, awful, no good week in mood though. It was all because of 𝐲𝐻𝐬. Because he couldn't see him anymore. Because he couldn't talk to him. Because he didn't hate him like he thought he did. He hated that he was a pro hero, but not 𝐲𝐻𝐬. He didn't hate the actual person himself. The person he's with whenever he hangs around 𝐬𝐻𝐬, and calls him just to check how he's doing, and comes over for meals, and brings him medicine when he is sick, and skips work so he can take care of him. He didn't hate that person. He doesn't hate 𝐲𝐻𝐬 now. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬's scared though. He doesn't want this. He didn't want to be a hero's friend. He didn't want to date a hero. They were all terrible people. Tears appear in his eyes though when he should be relieved. He has a reason. He can tell 𝐲𝐻𝐬 that he doesn't feel comfortable being his friend anymore. That he thinks the two of them should split apart from now on. That I don't deserve this. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 whimpers. He doesn't. He was the one who survived. Why does he get to live out his life like normal while? No, he should be suffering as well. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 sees how distressed 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 is becoming and bows to him. I'm sorry 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬. I never meant to hurt you like this. I'll leave now. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 was lying to himself. All this time he kept trying to convince himself over and over again. That's why he repeated himself and was so persistent. This was terrible. This was all going to end terribly. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 should wait here and let him leave. He was scared. He was so scared right now, he didn't know what to do. 𝐲𝐻𝐬's getting further and further out of his life though with every step he takes. Something possesses him. He runs over and grabs 𝐲𝐻𝐬's arm, digging his nails into him. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 stops and turns around, looking back at him. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 looks pain-stricken. There are tears in his eyes. His face is red. His entire body seems to be shaking, and the most hurtful expression is on his face. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 did this to him. He was trying to leave to make it better, but he wasn't letting him go. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 bites down on his bottom lip. What is he doing right now? Honestly, his life is going up in flames. Where were his convictions? He was saying one thing and doing another right now. I don't want to be your friend. 𝐲𝐻𝐬's face hardens a bit. And I don't want to be your boyfriend. I don't like those words. I don't like those labels. He's crazy. He's out of his mind. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 leans up on his toes and closes his eyes, pressing his lips against 𝐲𝐻𝐬's. For that quick second that they brush their lips together before he falls back on the ground and stares into 𝐲𝐻𝐬's eyes. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 doesn't feel like he's holding his breath anymore. Okay, do you understand? 𝐲𝐻𝐬 did not. He did not understand at all. This entire evening was confusing as hell for him, and now he wasn't even sure if he was dreaming or not. He lifts his hand up, but this time 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 doesn't flinch away. He brings it close to him and cuffs his face. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 leans into his embrace and closes his eyes. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 gulps thickly and knows at this moment he doesn't care what he has to agree to as long as it means he gets to protect this person he loves so much. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 leans down and presses their lips together again. It's soft, but firm, quick, but lasting. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 stops trembling and curls his toes against the floor. Okay, I understand. He didn't, but this is what 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 needed to hear now. The effect is almost immediate. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬's face finally relaxing before he leans in and wraps his arms around 𝐲𝐻𝐬. He hugs him for the first time ever and 𝐲𝐻𝐬 is paralyzed for a second before he wraps his arms around his back. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 feels so warm right now. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 buries his face right in the middle of his chest and stays there. It was bright and warm. It felt like the dream at the hospital, the one he had in all white. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 hums and rolls around, clinging to this warmth. He likes it here. He wishes he could stay here forever bathing in this light. A stomach rumbling sends him crashing down back to consciousness. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 frowns in his sleep as he brings his hand to his stomach. He feels it rumble again and wonders why now did he get his appetite back when it's been acting weird on him all week. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 stops moving. He scrunches his eyes up tightly and then slowly peeks one of them open. That wasn't a voice he just imagined. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 was here. He was actually here. He wasn't sitting in a chair across from him though, but lying in bed with him, underneath the blankets, with their bodies tangled. So that's where the warmth was coming from. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 closes his eyes back and ducks down, reaching for the blankets. He lifts them up until they're covering his nose. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 chuckles softly and runs his fingers through his hair. If you want to take the chance, I can make you breakfast. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 squeezes his eyes shut even tighter. Or do you want to sleep some more? I'll have to go soon if I want to make it to work on time. What time is it? 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 whispers. Almost 7. Do you have class today? What was today? Tuesday. He does, but it isn't until later in the evening. Later, I see. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 doesn't know what he should do now at this moment. He's scared. Does he open his eyes and face what he did yesterday? Did he consider it a mistake? He was acting like he did, but deep down inside, it was peaceful. Being in Shoto's arms like this, feeling his fingers glide across his hair, all of it was peaceful. 𝐀𝐦, close your eyes. Shoto hums softly, but does as told. Izuku peeks one of his eyes open and sees that Shoto listened to him. He raises his hand and waves it in front of his face, but he doesn't move. Good. Izuku slips out of bed and quickly runs away, slamming the door shut behind him as he enters the bathroom. He turns on the water to freezing cold and splashes it on his face. Okay, you're okay, Izuku. You're actually okay. You're freaking out because this has never happened before, but you're fine on the inside. Only hungry. Izuku looks at himself in the mirror and sees how crazy he kind of looks right now. Like seriously, pale face, a bit of bags under his crazy eyes. He shakes his head and washes his face again, snatching the towel off the rack to dry him off. He was smart enough to trick himself because he was that smart. Shoto and him. There was nothing going on between the two of them. No labels. They weren't friends. They weren't lovers. They were just enjoying each other's company. That's what this is. That's what Izuku can accept. He wasn't happier when he came into his life, but things got easier. That's all. He's still the same person. He's still leading the same life. He still feels the same hatred and regret. Everything is the same. Now he just has a person who occasionally visits him. That's all Shoto was. Someone who occasionally visited. A visitor. I like that. A visitor. Izuku takes a deep breath and nods his head. He opens up the bathroom door and heads back into the bedroom. Shoto is still lying on the bed, but he no longer has his eyes closed. They look and follow Izuku when he comes back to his side. What time do you have to leave? Shoto blinks. 8:20 at the latest. Izuku nods his head. I'll make breakfast. You don't have to. I want to. Izuku turns around and heads out of the room, straight for the kitchen. He knows what he's doing now. He has a plan in front of him. Make breakfast, go to school, come home. From now on he's going to make plans for every single day because that is going to make him feel like he has more control over the things that he doesn't. I like this. Food, school, home. Shoto's added in there somewhere. Food of course, but probably a text message or phone call at home. He's not important right now. He'll be important when Izuku sees him again. For now all that matters is breakfast. Another thing that Izuku is going to do is to only focus on what's in front of him. And what's in front of him right now is the refrigerator. Very good job, Mr. Midoriya. Izuku raises an eyebrow as his professor hands him back a graded essay. His eyes widen and a smile appears on his face when he looks at the grade. He passed. He totally passed this essay that was worth 30% of his entire grade for some reason. It doesn't even matter if Izuku fails his final now. He did such a good job he'd still be able to pass with a low B. Not that he was going to do it. It was just a nice thought to have. He won't have to worry about this class for the next 3 weeks as much as his other ones. Thank goodness for that. Izuku's mood is pleasant throughout the rest of his day. As he leaves that classroom he feels as if he's floating almost or something towards the new music room. Petunia too needs to hear this happy news. Izuku can't contain himself. He wants to express his feelings and play it out loud. Izuku giggles as he enters the room, the door being unlocked for him like it always is. Petunia too. Let's have some fun. Izuku cracks his fingers and presses them hard against the keys. His fingers move like lightning, up and down, as a cheerful and upbeat song escapes out of his heart. He closes his eyes and smiles to himself as he plays. His music has been sounding better now. It doesn't hurt his ears to listen to it being played and sound like trash either. Izuku giggles as he finishes this song and fuses it with a new one. He gets so lost inside of his music that he doesn't break out of it until he hears something fighting against it. Izuku furrows his eyebrows, wondering where that sound is coming from. He stops playing and looks around, suddenly recognizing the ringtone of his phone. Darn, he mumbles, digging it out of his backpack. Izuku's heart races inside of his chest as he sees Shoto's name pop up. It always does that now whenever he gets a call or message from him. Izuku gulps and clears his throat before answering. Hello, hey Izuku, am I calling you at a bad time? No, I finished my last class for the day a while ago, so you called me at a good time. What's up? Nothing. I'm on my lunch break right now and wanted to hear your voice. Oh, Izuku mumbles. Shoto talks like this now. Izuku doesn't know if he's always wanted to before or not, but yeah, he does this now. He hears Shoto chuckle in his ear. Well, don't stop talking after I told you that. Aw, so sorry. I didn't mean to. I just didn't know what to say. I'm teasing you, Izuku. It's all right. Are you on your way home now? No, I'm still at school in the music room. Music room. Were you practicing on the piano? On Petunia too? Yes, I was. I don't think I've ever heard you play. Can you what? Listen to you. Izuku blinks. You want to listen to me play? Over the phone. As much as I would love to be there in person to hear you play right now, I'm afraid I can't. I'll be able to hear it over the phone. Can you play me a song, Izuku? I don't care what it is, I just want to hear you play. I thought you wanted to hear my voice. Haha, well I changed my mind. Do you mind? No, I don't. I'm going to have to put you down, so I probably won't hear you talk to me. That's all right, I'll just listen. Okay, 𝐲𝐸. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 places his phone on top of Petunia too. The last time he had an audience was in front of Professor Carroll, but that was in person. 𝐲𝐸 was just over the phone, he wasn't actually here. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 is nervous knowing that he's still going to be listening though. He presses his fingers against the keys, never liking the key he's in. He keeps adjusting them before he finally decides on something, playing something. It's jerky and awkward at first, but when 𝐬𝐻𝐸 closes his eyes and remembers how to breathe, it gets better. He tries not to play for too long, stopping himself and allowing the melody to end once he hits those final chords. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 sits there, fingers resting on top of the keys. He takes a deep breath in, a deep breath out, and then reaches for his phone. Were you able to hear that okay? Why yeah, I was. I heard it perfectly. Good. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 mumbles softly. You don't have to tell me what you thought, it was beautiful. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 blinks before he smiles. Thank you, 𝐲𝐸. I really mean it. Wow, you could be a professional. You sounded like a professional. How did you learn to play like that? Years of practice since I was 5. Haha, I see. Can I listen to another one? What about your lunch? What about it? I can listen and eat at the same time. I'll see you after work, so I can hear your voice then. Can I, please? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 gulps and nods his head. Okay, I'll put you down again. He does just that before he closes his eyes and starts to play again. Good evening, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. Isn't it a little bit late for you to be heading out? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 stops and looks back, seeing his landlord 𝐀𝐦 standing near the mailbox. She has her mail in her hand as she puts her keys away. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 smiles gently back as he walks over to her. Hello 𝐀𝐦, I'm meeting someone right now for dinner. Oh, really? How nice. Is it a special someone? 𝐀𝐦 teases. No one special, just going out. Ha ha ha, all right. Wink, wink. 𝐀𝐦 winks at him. Well, I hope you have a good night. Don't let this old lady distract you any longer. You're young, go and have some fun. 𝐴TH thanks. 𝐀𝐦 walks over and pats his shoulder. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 laughs awkwardly. Oh okay 𝐀𝐦, see you later. He waves goodbye and walks out of the front doors. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 walks quickly over to 𝐲𝐸's car parked out front and opens the door. He hops in and struggles to put his seatbelt on as fast as he can. Hello 𝐬𝐻𝐸, drive, quickly. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 ducks down and peeks out of the car window back at his apartment, wondering if 𝐀𝐦 is still standing there and perhaps watching him. 𝐲𝐸 scrunches his eyebrows together and frowns. Why? What's wrong? Is someone after you? He asks, his voice growing cold as he gets ready to get out of the car. What? No one is after me. I think my landlord is spying on us right now. Quick, let's leave before she walks outside and tries to meet you. Go. 𝐲𝐸 calms down a little bit, happy that there was no danger after all. He switches gears and starts to drive off, turning on his blinker before making a right turn on the street. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 sighs out a little bit in relief. He sits up in his seat and looks at 𝐲𝐸 nervously. Sorry. For what reason? Worrying you? 𝐀𝐦 is, well, she isn't a noisy landlord, but sometimes she is curious. She stopped me wondering why I was going out so late. You don't know what she said next. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 shivers to himself. 𝐲𝐸 scrunches his eyebrows together. Does she always question you when you leave? Huh, oh no, I think I just surprised her is all. I don't usually go out at night, so. She was worrying. In her own way. I see. Well, that's nothing to apologize for, it wasn't your fault. Next time I'll be more prepared to make a quick getaway. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 smiles. Just don't forget to let me in the car first before you do. 𝐲𝐸 chuckles a bit. I won't. So, where do you want to go tonight? I'm not sure. Did you have a place in mind? I'm fine with wherever you want to go, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. I didn't really give it much thought though. We can go and get some ramen. Somewhere. I know there's a lot of spots I walk to, sometimes there's one right there. We can get something more expensive than ramen, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. It's my treat. Try thinking about something you really want to eat or always wanted to try. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 stares down at his hands. Ramen is fine. 𝐲𝐸 glances at him out the corner of his eyes and presses his lips together. He turns on his turn signal and gets over, pulling into the parking lot of the next ramen spot he saw. Is this place any good? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 looks up to check the place out and nods his head. Yeah, I order takeout from here all the time. I like their pork miso, but everything here is good as well. 𝐲𝐸 hums as he pulls into a parking spot. Can't wait to try it then. He parks his car and puts it in park before turning it off. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 takes his seatbelt off and reaches for the door handle. Hold on a second. 𝐲𝐸 reaches over him and opens up the glove compartment. He digs inside of it until he finds what he's looking for, leaning back in his seat as he puts a ring on his finger. There'd be no point in doing this if people saw, he says before tapping on the ring twice. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 blinks as 𝐲𝐸 suddenly has dark black hair, 2 gray eyes, and his scar disappear in an instant. His eyes widen and 𝐲𝐸 looks over at him before he smiles. It's a support item. Now no one will recognize me and I don't have to wear a hat and glasses all the time. Come on, let's go. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 gets out of the car and 𝐬𝐡𝐚𝐭 follows after. The two of them start heading towards the ramen restaurant. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 holds the door open when they arrive and 𝐬𝐡𝐚𝐭 thanks him as he walks in. He orders a table for two and soon the two of them are sitting across from each other. You said everything was good. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 asks. Why yeah, I've ordered from here a lot during finals when I'm too tired to cook. My favorite so far has been the pork miso. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 hums as he scans over the menu. What do you think I would like? 𝐬𝐡𝐚𝐭 stiffens up a bit as he looks up at him. What do you like? I'm not sure. What type of ramens do you normally eat? None. I'm more of a cold soba type of guy. Oh, I'm sorry. We can go somewhere else if you know. No, 𝐬𝐡𝐭, it's not that big of a deal. I must have phrased that wrong. I want to eat ramen. This is fine. I just wanted you to choose something special for me. It's a little bit weird seeing 𝐲𝐻𝐬 smile at him when he doesn't really look like himself. He still sounded like 𝐲𝐻𝐬 and still had one of his eye colors. It was a little bit weird though. Just a little bit. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 licks his lips as he looks back down at the menu. He reads over everything. To the goddess ramen. Goddess ramen. Yeah, is that all right? 𝐲𝐻𝐬 nods his head and moves his menu away. Yeah, that's fine. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 frowns. You're not even going to check and see what it is. I trust you, 𝐬𝐡𝐭. Tell me how your day was. How were your classes? Did anything happen today that surprised you? 𝐲𝐻𝐬 laces his fingers together and leans his elbows on the table, resting his chin on top of his hands as he gives 𝐬𝐡𝐭 his complete attention. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 gulps and licks his lips. He looks down at the menu, still wondering if there should be something that he should order or not. My day was pretty normal. After you left, I cleaned up, got dressed, and went to school. What were the classes that you had today? My first one is creative writing and the other one is a communications class. After that I went to the music room and that's when I called you. Lucky me. You'll have to play for me in person one of these days. You probably sound much better live, although I don't know how much better you could have sounded when I heard you play on the phone. It was beautiful, 𝐬𝐡𝐭. You have a real talent. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 lowers his head and scrunches up his shoulders. Thanks, 𝐲𝐻𝐬. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 stares at him before chuckling under his breath. Do you not handle compliments well? 𝐬𝐡𝐭 doesn't know the answer to that. He's never been complimented like that before. His parents and family. Yeah, sometimes by his teachers, but it feels different when 𝐲𝐻𝐬's the one doing it. He shrugs at him. Hopefully the more I'll do it, the more used to it you'll get. You said you first started playing piano when you were younger. Can you tell me more about that? What made you want to start playing? 𝐬𝐡𝐭's face turns a little bit pale. 𝐲𝐻𝐬 notices and leans up a bit. He's about to ask him what's wrong when a waitress suddenly appears by their table. Hello there, my name is 𝐀𝐦. What can I get you two to drink? We're actually ready to order, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 says, his tone less than amusing. Alrighty, what can I get for you? He orders the ramen 𝐬𝐡𝐭 suggested and something to drink as well. When it's 𝐬𝐡𝐭's turn, he has to call his name to break him out of whatever trance he's currently in right now. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 shakes his head and stares at the new person before he stutters out his order. 𝐀𝐦 smiles at the two of them before leaving them alone. Finally, 𝐲𝐻𝐬 glares at her a little bit before looking back at 𝐬𝐡𝐭, his eyes softening. Everything okay? Huh, yeah. What was your question again, 𝐲𝐻𝐬? It doesn't matter. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 rubs the back of his neck. It's fine. I think it just caught me by surprise is all. You wanted to know what? It certainly doesn't look fine, but 𝐲𝐻𝐬 answers anyway. Why'd you learn how to play? Did your parents force you or something? Kind of. My mother thought I needed something to do too, to fill up my time, so she signed me up for piano lessons. I think she took lessons too when she was my age, although she can't play anymore now. That was the story behind it. Then why did he make such a face last time? 𝐲𝐻𝐬 stares curiously at 𝐬𝐡𝐭 before clearing his voice. It doesn't matter. This was their first official date together and 𝐲𝐻𝐬 was already screwing this up. He should have told 𝐬𝐡𝐭 he had places planned for them to go. A lot of places due to the suggestions of his friends. He wanted to take 𝐬𝐡𝐭 to where he wanted to go and he shouldn't have been so insistent because now their first date was at a cheap ramen spot where the most expensive thing on the menu was $20. Then he brought up the wrong topic that made 𝐬𝐡𝐭 look like he wanted to be anywhere but here and 𝐲𝐻𝐬 is bad at this. He is so bad at this it isn't even funny. It's only pathetic. I see. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 plays with his fingers. Why is this so hard? Does that really matter? Talking with 𝐲𝐻𝐬 was always hard. It's just become more difficult now that the two of them are. Well, 𝐬𝐡𝐭 doesn't need to label it. His heart doesn't want to stop racing right now. He looks up at 𝐲𝐻𝐬, seeing him looking bored as he stares out the window. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 flinches and lifts up his head. How was your day? 𝐲𝐻𝐬 blinks as he looks over at him. My day. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 nods his head up and down. It was normal as well. Patrolled my entire ship and caught a small bank robber. That was probably the most exciting. I honestly couldn't wait to get off that shift since I knew that I would be seeing you afterwards. How often do you work? 5 to 6 days a week, but I'm always on call if there's an emergency. My days off fluctuate, but normally it's on the weekend. 𝐬𝐡𝐭 nods his head again. He keeps going like this, asking small and simple questions that he thinks he can handle. 𝐲𝐸 seems to be in a better mood as he starts talking more. Izuku is happy that the questions are no longer directed at him. He hopes the food comes over soon because he doesn't know how much longer he can keep this up. Thanks so much, please come again. 𝐲𝐸 holds the door open for Izuku to walk out. Thanks, you're welcome. 𝐲𝐸 follows him out and speeds up to catch up with him. He feels his hand twitch slightly and stretches it out, brushing his fingers against Izuku's hand. He wraps them around and grabs his hand for a second. Izuku flinches and yelps, snatching his hand back. 𝐲𝐸's eyes grow wide from his sudden reaction and Izuku's face turns red as he stares at him. My hand is sweaty. He blurts out. It's a lie, although it's starting to feel sweaty now. He didn't like how 𝐲𝐸 tried to do that without any warning though whatsoever and shocked the hell out of him. Why did he have to say something so embarrassing though? Izuku bites on his bottom lip and suppresses a groan as he walks towards the car. 𝐲𝐸 watches him go before sighing out to himself. He digs out his keys and follows after him, unlocking the car for the both of them. Once their seatbelts are on, 𝐲𝐸 starts the car and pulls out of the parking lot. Izuku stares down at his hands, his heart racing in his ears. That was mean of him to do, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. He didn't mean to do that. 𝐲𝐸 probably thinks he's weird or something. Izuku gulps and rubs his hands off on his pants. He looks over and sees both of 𝐲𝐸's hands on the steering wheel. This would be bad. Can he drive with one hand? It would be a distraction, which would lead to an accident. And isn't it illegal to drive with one hand or something? Izuku doesn't know at all, but 𝐲𝐸 stops at a traffic light and takes one hand off of the steering wheel, placing it down on the gear stick. Izuku's eyes widen a little bit and he reaches his hand. He places it on top of 𝐲𝐸's gently and waits for him to reject him if he wants to. 𝐲𝐸 turns his head and peeks at him real quickly. A smile appears on his face as he turns his hand around and laces their fingers together. He squeezes onto his hand and Izuku feels a shiver run down his spine. He squeezes back a little bit and the two of them hold hands for the rest of the drive. 𝐲𝐸 thinks it all ends way too quickly. He should have been more courageous and taken advantage over the two of them being together. It was going to be a while before he saw him again. It works with their schedule since Izuku goes to school during the week and 𝐲𝐸 works. But sometimes he can't get the weekends off and that's time he has to sacrifice with Izuku. Now that the two of them were closer to each other, 𝐲𝐸 wanted for them to become even more closer. He wanted to know everything about Izuku. Thanks for dinner, 𝐲𝐸, and picking me up and dropping me back home. It was nice. Izuku thanks him. It was my pleasure, Izuku. Let me walk you to your door. You don't have to, I know, but it's late. Please. He would have refused under normal circumstances. But this wasn't normal circumstances anymore. Izuku nods his head and lets go of 𝐲𝐸's hand as he gets out of the car. 𝐲𝐸 turns on his hazard lights and parks his car, exiting out as well. He walks around the car and reaches for Izuku's hand slowly this time. He doesn't try to pull away and holds his hand back as they walk the short distance from the sidewalk to his front door. This is good. Thanks, 𝐲𝐸. You're welcome, Izuku. I'll message you tomorrow. Okay. The two of them stand there staring at each other. Izuku didn't know if he was supposed to be the first one to look away or not. It was starting to get cold this late at night and he didn't want the two of them staring at each other all night. He takes a deep breath and reaches out, wrapping his arms around 𝐲𝐸 as he hugs him quickly. Bye. Izuku quickly parts and goes inside his apartment building, basically fleeing as he doesn't look back. 𝐲𝐸 watches him go until he disappears out of his sight before making his way back to his car with a smile on his face. There's a knock on Izuku's door. He finishes reading the sentence he already started before he puts his pencil down on the page. He walks up and over towards the door, undoing his locks before he opens it up. His mind was still circulating around the information he absorbed that he didn't stop to think about who might have been at the door. He was certainly surprised to see the visitor in his life constantly standing on the other side of it. 𝐲𝐸, hey, what are you doing here? Izuku asks. Did I come at a bad time? It completely slipped my mind to message you until I got here a few seconds ago. 𝐲𝐸 asks. And no, I'm just surprised by your visit. I was studying. You can come in. Izuku steps back and allows for the hero to walk into his home. 𝐲𝐸 thanks him as he kicks his shoes off and walks inside. Izuku closes the door before he follows behind him. He wonders what was going on right now. Did 𝐲𝐸 just come over to hang out? Normally he asks first, but he said he forgot to until he got here. Are you hungry? I made some stir-fry half an hour ago. I can warm it up for you. 𝐲𝐸 chuckles. Sure, if it isn't any trouble. I can do it if you like. I don't want to interrupt your study. You aren't. I've been doing it for... Izuku looks at his clock. Wow, 3 hours now. I could use a break. Do you normally spend your weekends studying like this? Izuku scratches the back of his head as his cheeks turn red. Well, yeah, I think I told you already that I don't go out much, especially during school. I'm almost done with this semester, but I can't slack off for finals. When finals are over, how long is your break going to be until your next one? About 3 weeks. We'll have to do something together and spend more time with each other. Is there any place that you've been wanting to go on a trip to? We should go on a trip somewhere. My job would be all too happy to give me a mini vacation since I never take days off of work. Izuku gulps. Yeah. Think about it. I didn't mean to pressure you all of a sudden. I feel bad taking up your time though when you're busy with school and your life. Oh, okay. And make yourself at home. Izuku escapes to his kitchen and takes out a plate from the cabinet. He starts piling on the stir-fry he made before walking towards the microwave, shoving it in there. What exactly did he mean by trip? Something short, right? Nothing that has to do with overnight. The two of them just started this out. Sure, they've been knowing each other for a while now, but it was all too soon to be spending the night together. Well, 𝐲𝐸 has spent the night over already, and Izuku did like it a tiny bit, but that was in the comfort of his home. Going to someplace new to spend the night together seemed way too adult for the two of them. Or at least for Izuku. He didn't even know 𝐲𝐸's age. 𝐲𝐸, yeah, how old are you? 21. Why? 21? He's nearly the same age as Izuku, probably only older by a few months since Izuku is turning 21 this year, and he's already acting so courageous and adult-like. Well, he already did have a full-time job and a career as well. He had a nice car, a license, and money. He was mature. I didn't know. The microwave goes off and Izuku opens up the door, taking the meal out. He grabs a pair of chopsticks on his way towards the table and places it down in front of 𝐲𝐸. Sorry for the mess, Izuku says, moving his papers around. I don't mind, I'm the one intruding on you. Sorry for the inconvenience. Izuku smiles lightly at 𝐲𝐸 before taking a seat. He gathers up his papers and tries to set everything in neat stacks, wondering why his mathematics homework is out when he's studying fiction right now. This looks delicious. Thank you, Izuku. You're welcome, 𝐲𝐸. 𝐲𝐸 takes a bite and chews slowly before swallowing it down. I don't think I know how old you are. 20. I see. When is your birthday? July 15th. 𝐲𝐸's eyebrows raise a bit. That's in 2 months. Yup. When is your birthday? January 11th. Ah, you're 6 months older than me. Do you have anything planned for your birthday? You'll be turning 21. Some people consider that a milestone. Izuku shrugs and breathes out through his nose. I always hang out with my family every year, so I'll probably just do that again this year. We'll have to do something too. If not the day of, then before or after, so I can celebrate it with you as well. Izuku looks up at 𝐲𝐸 and sees him catch his eyes, staring right back at him. He gulps slightly and nods his head up and down. Oh, okay. That was a strange suggestion. No, not strange, more likely normal. It's just, Izuku hasn't celebrated a birthday with anyone other than his parents since he was 13 years old. For once since then, 𝐲𝐸 was going to be a part of it. Maybe it would be better if it wasn't actually on the date. It might feel a bit less strange. 𝐲𝐸's planning a trip with the two of them and now planning on having them go celebrate his birthday together. He was planning a lot of things ahead for their future, while Izuku, he was only trying to get through today. What do you plan on doing tomorrow, Izuku? My parents are finally coming home from their vacation, business trip, so I was planning on seeing them. How come? Oh, I remember you mentioning that before. It's why you didn't call them at the hospital. They've been vacationing for a long time. Izuku shrugs. My dad had to keep extending it because of his work, but my mom didn't mind all that much. She just hated the cell service there. What time are they coming in at? Do you plan on spending the entire day with them? What's up, 𝐲𝐸? Why do you want to know so much out of the blue? 𝐲𝐸 clears his throat a little bit. I wanted to invite you out with me tomorrow, that's why I'm asking. Oh, then why didn't you just say so? I was kind of trying to by asking if you were free tomorrow, but then you said you were busy, and I wondered for how long you might have been because the party is at 7 party. What party? With my friends. It's not really a party, it's just a bunch of people from work going out tomorrow. They meet at a restaurant and talk and drink, and normally I don't go to these types of things often, but I thought it might be nice for us. That's it in a nutshell. 𝐲𝐸 didn't need to tell Izuku how all of them practically forced him to come and invite his secret lover, and that if he didn't there would be hell to pay. Izuku pales a little bit and looks down. Everything, absolutely everything that 𝐲𝐸 said in that sentence sounded terrible. Party, friends, work heroes. Izuku would be completely surrounded by them. Completely surrounded, and he wouldn't be able to hide it or be comfortable or even able to breathe with so many of those no. What was that? As I said no. I don't want to do that. Izuku shouts, suddenly getting out of his seat. 𝐲𝐸's eyes widen as he stares at him, and Izuku starts panting heavily, breathing in and out. He flinches slightly and places one hand on his chest as he stares down at the floor. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. I'm sorry, 𝐲𝐸. 𝐲𝐸 blinks and puts his chopsticks down. He gets up, but Izuku flinches and moves away from him. 𝐲𝐸 takes a deep breath and opens up his arms for him. It's okay. Izuku peeks up at him. It's okay, Izuku. No, it's not. What is he doing right now? What is he doing? Why did Izuku ever think that this was a good idea? And this could work. He thought it would be worst if he let 𝐲𝐻𝗨 go. But if it's going to be like this the entire time they're together, then he's still going to be suffering in the long run. All of this is wrong. Oh, wrong. I think you should go. 𝐲𝐻𝗨's eyes waver. Izuku, please, just go. 𝐲𝐻𝗨 swallows thickly. He takes a step closer, but Izuku completely rejects him by turning his back to him. 𝐲𝐻𝗨 clenches his hand into a fist tightly before heading towards the door. Izuku doesn't try to stop him. All 𝐲𝐻𝗨 sees is his back as he closes the door. 𝐬𝐻𝗨, we're finally home. Izuku flinches at his mother's loud voice. He leans up on the couch and sees 𝐀𝐦 tossing away all of her things before she's running over. Izuku grins from ear to ear as he gets up. The two of them collide and hug each other tightly, 𝐀𝐦 having tears in her eyes while her son simply laughs. Welcome back, Mom. Oh, I missed you, Izuku. Have you gotten taller? You've grown so much since we've been gone. Mom, it's only been 2 months. No, it hasn't. It's been nearly 3. That's a long time for a mother to not see her son. 𝐀𝐦 pouts. Hello, son, Hisashi says. He reaches out and pats Izuku's head before dragging the luggage to his room quickly. Izuku turns his head and watches him leave. Oh, hi, Dad. Welcome home. What's with him, Mom? That loser, he has to go to work apparently. My superior asked me to come drop something off. How can I say no? Easily, like you could have said when he asked you to work on your vacation. No. Ha, I see the vacation did you 2 wonders. Izuku laughs awkwardly. 𝐀𝐦 sighs and shakes her head. It was lovely, honey. I just wish your father wouldn't ask how high every time his job tells him to jump. I do not ask how high, I ask how much. It's going to be really quick, 𝐀𝐦, in and out. I'll be back in half an hour, 1 hour tops. You're still going to be here, right, son? Hisashi asks, coming back out of the room. Why, yeah, Dad. I was thinking of spending the night if that's all right. Of course that's all right. 𝐀𝐦 cheers. Great, I'll talk to you in a bit, son. It's nice seeing you again. Hisashi walks over and hugs his son properly this time before he kisses his wife and is out the door. 𝐀𝐦 sticks her tongue out at him before looking back at her adorable son. She reaches out her hand and pinches his cheek. You look so skinny, dear. Are you eating properly? Let me fix you up something. Izuku chuckles. You always say that, Mom. You just got in. You should be relaxing. Sweetie, I was just on a 3-hour flight sitting on my butt and then a 30-minute taxi ride once again on my bum. I need to stand up and walk around. Plus the airplane had terrible food. There isn't any food in the fridge, Mom. Oh, then I guess that means we're going on a walk. Excellent. Let me go grab my purse and then we can be on our way. Izuku sighs out. Never winning against her. Okay, Mom. That a boy, she winks. About 10 minutes later, mother and son are walking down the street heading for the corner market. 𝐀𝐦 is humming happily with a bright smile on her face. So happy to be back home. It had been so long it felt like she was a stranger here all of a sudden, but walking around like this was bringing her back. So Izuku, what's been going on? Nothing much. Finals are coming up this week, so I've really been doing my best studying. Not too much, I hope. You're a smart boy, Izuku. You're going to do just fine. What about outside of school? What have you been doing then? Have you made any new friends at school recently? Gone out to any places that you enjoyed? I feel like all we talk about is school all the time. How have you been, Izuku? Here it was, the dreaded topic. Izuku hated lying to his mother, which is why he didn't. What he did do, though, is keep things from her so she wouldn't worry so much. There was no point in worrying about things that were out of your control, and 𝐀𝐦 worrying over him was pointless. That's why he still hasn't told her about him going to the hospital, because he was completely fine and she would have worried over nothing. That's also why Izuku never told her he didn't have any friends. Because if he did, she would worry, and that would be dumb since Izuku likes it this way a lot. I've just really been studying, Mom. Izuku, come on. We used to tell each other everything when you were younger. Come on, you can tell your mother. I want to hear about you, son. Unless, though, are you being all secretive on your mother because of a special someone in your life? Izuku raises an eyebrow at her and frowns. A special someone? Yeah, you know. No need to get embarrassed about it, dear. I have to say, during our phone calls you did sound a little bit suspicious. I didn't know what it was at first, but seeing your face right now. Yeah, I can tell. You're dating someone, aren't you? WHWH what? He shouts, face turning red. I knew it. Who is it? Who is the lucky person? No one, Mom. I'm not dating anyone. Why would you think that? Really? Phewie, 𝐀𝐦 pouts. Are you sure, sweetie? Yes, I'm really sure that if I was dating someone that I would know. Then what is it, Izuku? You have this look in your eyes and this slight tone in your voice that's making me think of something. What is it? How? She's his mother, that's how. Izuku sighs out. She's probably not going to stop until he tells her something, and maybe she'll drop this whole "did you make friends and what have you been doing" topic if Izuku talks a little bit about 𝐲𝐻𝗨. I am currently hanging out with someone new. Is that code for something? What? No, it's exactly what it sounds like. Oh, alright, so you made a new friend? Who is he? How did you meet him? At school. We met at school. His name is not important. We've been hanging out a bit, Mom. Sometimes we'll go out for dinner or sometimes I'll invite him over and cook for him. He doesn't know how to cook at all and survives on takeout and convenience stores. Oh wow, that's terrible. You should invite him over so I can teach him a thing or two. Mom, I know what you're doing there. Haha, I thought I slipped that in real quick. I'm happy you've made a new friend, love. Izuku stays quiet. He wouldn't exactly call 𝐲𝐻 a friend. He would actually hate to call him that in fact. 𝐴𝐻 stares at her son, taking his silence as something else instead. Unless he's more than just a friend. Izuku. 𝐴𝐻 grins like a Cheshire cat. Izuku takes a deep breath and sighs out. I may like him. Romantically. Just a tiny bit. And what about him? He confessed first. I actually had no idea until he told me. Aw, sweetie, that's wonderful. Izuku doesn't respond. That is wonderful. Right, sweetie? I don't know, Mom. It's complicated. 𝐴𝐻 blinks and reaches out for Izuku's hand. She holds it tightly in her own and squeezes it. What's complicated? Her son takes a deep breath before shaking his head. And nothing, it's nothing, Izuku. I know I may not seem like it, but I used to be your age. I've dated men other than your father before. I have experience with it's complicated. Tell me, I haven't been here for you all this time. Let me be here for you now. She's really good at guilting him. That was a really good line that she used just now. Sometimes I feel. I don't like things changing. Things changing. Like what? Everything. Mom, I know what you're going to say already. I already know it. But sometimes when I'm living my life or enjoying it, I wonder if I really should be allowed to be doing so. 𝐴𝐻 presses her lips together because of Katsuki. Izuku lowers his head. Yes, it's not fair. I know, sweetie. And I know, Mom. But sometimes when I think about him, I get overwhelmed with so many emotions I can't help but feel scared and so guilty that I'm here. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair, Mom. Izuku didn't mean to cry. He bites down on his bottom lip and rubs at his eyes, sniffling his nose. So it's complicated. I like him, but sometimes I don't because I get scared. I get really scared, Mom, and then I panic and say stupid things, like yesterday. I yelled at him for no reason and told him to leave, and I know I'm going to drive him away like this, but I honestly can't help it sometimes. Izuku, be honest with me. Has it been getting better or worse? Do we need to see your doctor again? Izuku stiffens up. Be better. Izuku, honest, Mom, it's better. I think it's because of his birthday passing that I've been feeling like this. You know, this time of year is hard on me. 𝐴𝐻 takes a deep breath and sighs out. Why haven't you said anything, sweetie? Because nothing has happened recently. I think I'm allowed to be sad 2 times out of the year. Izuku, I didn't mean it like that. I know, Mom, I know. It's just hard. It's not only with 𝐾𝐻. We're just different people. I don't know how to explain it, Izuku mumbles. He doesn't want to explain it. He thinks to himself, I'm just scared. This is something completely new to me and I don't know how not to mess this up. Have you tried being honest? Mom, I can barely talk to you about 𝐾𝐻 without breaking into tears. I've only been seeing this man for a couple of months, after you and Dad went on your trip. I don't want to talk about this with him. You need to talk to someone about this, Izuku. If not him, or me, or your father, then someone. It's bad for you to hold this all in. I'm not holding anything in, Mom. I only get like this around this time. You know that. You should know that. You talk to me all the time, and do I ever sound sad and depressed to you any other time? I promise you, Mom, this is nothing big. This is all just fear and anxiety of letting someone new into my life. Izuku honestly feels bad about lying, but she doesn't understand. No one understands what he's going through. She wasn't there when it happened. It was only him, 𝐾𝐻, and so you're scared of being honest with your boyfriend, and you're scared of messing up. So you're automatically pushing him away. He's not my boyfriend, Izuku mumbles. Izuku, something like that. I think this is for the best anyway. Us being together doesn't make that much sense, and Izuku, let me ask you something. 𝐴𝐻 stops walking and pulls her son aside. She reaches out her hands and cuffs his face, staring right at his eyes. Do you like him? Izuku blinks. What? Do you like him? It's an easy question, sweetie. Do you like the guy? Yes. Does he make you happy? Happy? Izuku doesn't know about that. Happiness is a fleeting thing. Izuku hasn't felt happy for more than an hour or so in years. He didn't like how he felt when 𝐲𝐻 was going to walk out of his life completely though, so I think he does. Then that's all you need to focus on. Izuku, I know it's hard. What happened to 𝐾𝐻, it affected all of us, but it wasn't your fault. You can't blame yourself and feel guilty for continuing on just because you survived. Izuku didn't blame himself. He didn't blame himself at all. He blamed someone completely different that he hated with every inch of his soul. The best advice that I can give you is to be with someone who makes you happy. That's what I found in your father. And that's what I hope you will find as well. If something is stopping you though, something other than your fears, then it must not be meant to be. But if it's only because you don't think you deserve to be happy, Izuku, then you're wrong. There's no one in this world who was born to be unhappy. 𝐀𝐦 shakes her head as she drops her hands. Sweetie, I'm sorry I couldn't come back sooner. If I would have known, I would have been here for you more. But I'm here now. It's fine, Mom. No, it's not. I should have been there for you for Katsuki's birthday. I know how much it hurts you every year. You need to talk about this. I don't want to talk about it. And because you have this irrational fear and anxiety. It's temporary, Mom. His birthday was barely 10 days ago. Can't I mourn my dead best friend for a little while without you thinking that I need to be drugged up again? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 groans out loudly as he covers his face with his hands. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to yell, but this right here isn't helping me. This isn't making me feel better. This is only hurting me more. You're not helping, so can we please just drop this? 𝐬𝐻𝐸, this is important to you. It is. It is important, and for the past 7 years I have been living my life with it. When people go, they don't just disappear out of your lives. They stay in your memories, Mom, in your heart. You're talking like you want me to just forget and move on from that like it's easy, but it's not. He wasn't your best friend, Mom. He was mine. I'm doing terrible now, right now at this moment, yes, but I wasn't earlier. I was really happy that you came home and I was enjoying our walk. I'm not reverting back to my old tendencies. I'm sleeping soundlessly at night. I'm not having nightmares. I'm going to school every day. I'm getting good grades, and I'm playing the piano with all my heart. I'm fine. Please believe me, I am fine. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 stares into his eyes. Okay, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 nods his head. Okay. It's silent as the two of them continue their walk. There's a knock on his door. Come in. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 peeks her head in. Hey, are you about to go to sleep? No. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 was staring at his phone for the last 10 minutes, wondering if he should text 𝐲𝐻𝐸 or not. He hadn't messaged him at all since that night, and 𝐬𝐻𝐸 was wondering if he should be the one who made the first move or if he should just let this die out. No, you can come in, Mom. Did you need something? 𝐀𝐻𝐸 walks in and closes the door behind her. She grabs 𝐬𝐻𝐸's desk chair and brings it over to his bed. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 sits up in his bed and leans against the bedpost. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 stares down at her hands as she plays with her fingers. I owe you an apology, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. 𝐬𝐻𝐸's eyes widen. What? No, Mom, I'm the one that should apologize. What I said was way out of line. No, 𝐬𝐻𝐸, I forget sometimes. I forget how young you were when you lost Katsuki. I forget the incident and how it happened because it scares me to death to think that I could have lost you too. It terrifies me, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. So instead of thinking about it, I try to force myself to forget. You're not like me though, and I'm not being understanding enough. I'm sorry, sweetie. That was unfair to you. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 takes a deep breath. I don't think that way, Mom. You're my mother. You're only worrying about me, and I acted like a rebellious teenager. I'm adult now. I should be acting more adult-like. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 giggles. Well, you kind of skipped over your rebellious teenager phase, 𝐬𝐻𝐸, so I think you're allowed to experience it now. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 chuckles a little bit. I think I was pushing you so hard, sweetie, because we haven't talked. And I know that was my fault because I was gone for your father for so long, but I'm a mother hen. I like to baby you and always know what's going on with your life, and being honest, 𝐬𝐻𝐸, I feel like I don't know anything at all. I didn't even know that you were still playing piano. I never stopped, Mom. See, I didn't know that. Why didn't I know that? If I was more constant in your life and there for you, Mom. You are there for me. You are, Mom, you are. This is not your fault. I'm just not as open to sharing my feelings so much. And that isn't your fault. That's just how I am, Mom. I'm scared to care for people if they're just going to get taken away from me in the end. What's the point? You think I'm not telling you about my life, but there's nothing at all going on in it that is worth telling you. I am living it though. I'm living it my way. It's not what it used to be with you, but I'm surviving and I'm here. I'm here, Mom. I'm present with you. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 sniffs her nose and nods her head. I just don't want to fail you, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. You never have, Mom, and you never will. I didn't know what to do. You're different, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. You've been different for a long time, but I've been holding on to that younger version of you. You still smile and call me Mom. You're still my son, but you're different. You've grown. Well, I can't stay your little boy forever, Mom. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 laughs a little bit and shakes her head. She lifts up her chin and nods her head. That's right, you can't be. I have to trust you. Put my trust in you, 𝐬𝐻𝐸, and not worry so much. I don't want you to think that you don't have anyone to talk to, but pushing you so much wasn't the right move to make. I'm here if you need me, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. I know, Mom. I always know that. Good. Never forget that. You can't survive in this world alone, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. You need others to help you live. Family, friends, lovers. These are the people that can lift you up when you're down and make you happy when you feel like you'll never smile again. I don't want you to ever think that you're alone. I'm sure that it's not only me and your father, but other people in your life as well. Like your not boyfriend. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 gives her a tight look. I'm not giving up on him just yet, Mom. Good. This was the first time you've talked about a boy with me, and I don't want you not breaking up with him the same day. Maybe he's like me. Maybe he doesn't understand completely sometimes and has to fill in the blanks on his own. But he still loves you no matter what and is willing to stay. Has he stayed by your side, 𝐬𝐻𝐸? Yes, even when Izuku didn't want him to, before he ever wanted him to stay. He was like a leech he couldn't get rid of. Even when Izuku was rude, or silent, or tried to get rid of him, he never truly did. 𝐲𝐸 never stayed away. He was always there waiting for him, like he's probably doing right now. Thank you, Mom. 𝐀𝐦 smiles and pats Izuku's leg. Have a good night, dear. I'll see you in the morning. We'll make all of our favorites and have a big feast before you head off to school. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Sounds good, Mom. Good night. Night, sweetie. 𝐀𝐦 pats his knee before excusing herself out of his room. Izuku lays back at his bed and stares up at the ceiling. He takes a deep breath in and out, thinking over his mother's words. It's not that he doesn't want to be happy. And it's not entirely that he believes that he doesn't deserve to be it, it's just hard. His life has always been hard ever since that incident. It's never gotten easier, he's just learned to live with it is all. He wasn't lying about one thing. He has his good days and he has his bad. Izuku looks at his phone again and types a message out to 𝐲𝐸. He hesitates to send it, before he finally does, turning his phone off and lying down to sleep. Can you spend the night tomorrow? Izuku races for the door when he hears it knocking. He opens it up and throws himself into 𝐲𝐸, wrapping his arms around him as he buries his face into his chest. It surprises the hero and Izuku holds him tighter when he starts apologizing. I'm sorry 𝐲𝐸, I'm sorry. 𝐲𝐸 clears his throat and places his hand on his shoulders. He tries pushing him back a little bit, but Izuku lowers his head and squeezes him even tighter. The two of them stand there, halfway in his hallway, half into his apartment, for anyone to see. Izuku takes a deep inhale of his scent and lets it fill up his lungs. I thought you weren't going to come. I didn't mean to be so late. I was wondering if I should still come over or not. I'm glad you did. Can we continue this indoors? I had a long day, Izuku, and I'm sure we both have things we have to do early in the morning. Izuku holds onto him for a couple of seconds more before he nods his head. He lets go of him, cheeks slightly turning red as he sways side to side. 𝐲𝐸 walks in and closes the door with him, locking it up securely. He kicks off his shoes and heads into the apartment. Mind if I use your bathroom? No, it's the first door. Thanks, I'll meet you in the bedroom. 𝐲𝐸 carries his backpack into the room and closes the door behind him. Izuku stands there with his heart racing inside of his chest. This was the right thing to do, right? 𝐲𝐸 didn't particularly seem happy to see him. But he showed up. He still showed up. Izuku wasn't going to fall asleep unless he did, and he did. That has to mean something. Izuku walks around the living room, turning off all the lights before heading towards his bedroom. He leaves it open for 𝐲𝐸, just in case he doesn't remember where it is, and turns the lamp on beside his bed. Izuku crawls into bed and lays down in it. He lays under the blankets, waiting and waiting. He feels like he's always waiting. This is the type of waiting where he knows that it'll end sooner or later. 𝐲𝐸 enters the bedroom and heads over. He's changed into a pair of sweats and a tank top. In this light, Izuku can't make out a lot, but the closer he gets, the more he sees these small scars covering his arms. 𝐲𝐸 pulls the blankets back and gets underneath him. He lays on his side of the bed and Izuku lays on his own. Is it all right if I turn the light off? It's fine by me. Izuku rolls around and turns off the lamp before lying back on his side. He stares at 𝐲𝐸, watching him lay there with his eyes closed. Should he? It would probably be better if. He was tired. It was late. He had work. Izuku had school. If there wasn't any time to talk in the morning, then they could always do it later on. It didn't have to be tonight. Izuku was just happy that 𝐲𝐸 was here beside him right now. He moves his hand underneath the blanket and feels around for 𝐲𝐸's. Once he touches his warm hand, he hooks his finger around 𝐲𝐸's and closes his eyes. How were your parents? Izuku opens his eyes up. He still sees 𝐲𝐸's closed. He did speak just a few seconds ago though, didn't he? It was good. It was nice seeing them after so long. I only cried twice. They told me all about their trip and we caught up with what we've been missing from each other for the past couple of months. Izuku bites on his bottom lip and chews it. My mother teased me a little bit about you. I told her how you didn't cook and she said to bring you over so she could teach you. You told her about me. Izuku blushes and nods his head. He forgets that 𝐲𝐸 can't see him though and quickly clears his throat. Why yeah. She asked what was new in my life and what's new has been you. Silence again. How was your party get together? I don't know. I didn't end up going. Oh. Izuku pulls his hand back, keeping it to his side of the bed. He feels his heart pounding painfully inside of his chest right now and wonders if this was all a bad idea. Was it because of me? He mumbles. I wasn't really looking forward all that much to going in the first place, with or without you. Izuku rolls onto his other side and curls into a small ball. You didn't have to force yourself to come here if you didn't want to. Izuku, I'm an adult too. I can handle it. I get it. I'm a lot to handle. I know you invested a lot in me and you're probably feeling don't. You have no idea what I'm feeling right now, so don't you dare fill in the blanks by yourself. Izuku flinches again and lowers his head. I'm sorry. 𝐲𝐸 takes a deep breath and moves over to Izuku's side of the bed. He hesitates to touch him at first. Can I hold you? Please. 𝐲𝗏 wraps his arms around him and holds him tightly against his chest. He burrows his face into Izuku's hair and takes a deep inhale of breath. Izuku feels goosebumps rise up as he feels his warm breath hit his scalp. I don't understand you. I want to understand you, Izuku. I don't have a mind-reading quirk, or one that lets me know what you're feeling. I'm really bad at reading people. I don't know unless you tell me, but you never want to tell me. You never say anything first and I'm left stuck trying to figure it out. Don't you know me enough already? You started liking me because of what you know now. I want to know everything about you, Izuku. What makes you laugh? What makes you cry? What you love and hate? Anything you want to tell me and all the things you're afraid to. I want to be with you. I want to be there for you. I know enough to be interested in you. But if someone asked me to describe you, I'd be stumped. I wouldn't have any information to give them other than your facial features and your birthday. And the fact that you played piano when you were 5, not even knowing the reason why. I don't know anything about you either. You never ask. I'd tell you anything if you asked, Izuku. If you were too scared, you could always look me up and find it out on your own, but you don't have something like that. I'm stuck wondering if I forced you into this somehow, and if you even want to be with me. Or are you just entertaining me because I'm a hero in your life? I wouldn't be with you because you're a hero, Izuku mumbles. I had a feeling of that, Izuku, but how could I know if you don't tell me? Izuku stares straight ahead, his eyes focusing on nothing in particular. 𝐲𝗏's hitting straight to home with every point that he made. It was of course going to be obvious. He was bound to notice how Izuku never tries to take an interest in what he does ever and doesn't know the reason why for that either. Izuku hears his mother's voice in his head, but she's wrong. He's not ready to talk about that. He never wants to tell 𝐲𝗏 about that. To tell him that he hates heroes. That he hates the fact that he's a hero, and if 𝐲𝗏 hadn't wormed him way into his life, that the two of them wouldn't be here right now. If 𝐲𝗏 didn't make him care, he wouldn't have. That 𝐲𝗏's been doing all the work. All of it. And what has Izuku been doing in the meantime? You shouldn't be with me, Izuku says. 𝐲𝗏 kisses the top of his head. That's all I want to be with you. Why? Do you want me to list to you again all the reasons why I like you? Izuku feels a blush appear on his cheeks as he remembers how embarrassing that was the first time. He shakes his head side to side. And no, then you should know the reasons why. Izuku made a plan to take everything day by day. He had a plan to plan out his entire day in the morning and then follow it out. As long as he knew what he was doing, he could survive the day. There was something new that he had to add today before it ended. 𝐲𝗏 wanted to ask questions, wanted to know more about him. Izuku was bad at this because it had just been him for so long. He screwed this all up. He knows that he did. And yet 𝐲𝗏 was still here. He should start to help him back. All he wanted was to know him a little bit. Just a little bit. My mother signed me up for piano lessons when I was 5 in order to distract me and keep me occupied. Why did she need to keep you distracted? Izuku grimaces and swallows down saliva. Because I was diagnosed quirkless when I was 5 and my dream of being a hero was shattered. 𝐲𝗏 stiffens up, his eyes widening. That's why I didn't want to tell you. I don't like thinking about it. Like would be an understatement. He hates thinking about it. About the fact that he wanted to be a hero once upon a time. If he had had a quirk, would he have been able to make a difference when the time came? No, Izuku honestly doesn't think so. If fate would have continued on the way it always had, even if he was born with a quirk, then he still would have lost 𝐀𝐦. He still would have turned to hate heroes and everything that they stood for. I'm sorry, Izuku. There are a lot of things that I don't like thinking about, that hurt me and are easier to just ignore. I've been through a lot and I didn't always come out unscathed. Never, in fact. It's why I'm so different, 𝐲𝗏. I'm not. It's hard for me. It's hard to understand me. I don't even understand me. It's not that I'm trying to not let you know me. It's just hard to let you in. I don't want to let you go though. I thought about it, but I'm scared to let you go, so you have to be the one who leaves. I don't think I'll ever be strong enough no matter how much it hurts. Why does it hurt? It doesn't have to hurt, Izuku. I don't want us being together to hurt you. I have things that I've been through as well. Things that I don't feel ready enough to tell you now. Things that have affected me too. You're not alone. Me wanting to know more about you isn't me forcing you to tell me things you aren't ready to share yet. All I want is what you're willing to offer, Izuku. If telling me what your favorite meal is too hard, then tell me so. Tell me that I mean something to you, that one day it'll be different. That's all I want. That's what I'm promising you as well. Izuku lifts his head up a little bit and stops curling up into a ball so much. My favorite meal is pork katsu. I could have guessed that. I'm glad that I know for sure now, Izuku. What else do you want to know? Whatever you're willing to share. Why did you want to be a hero when you grew up? Izuku flinches. I'm not ready to share that. What are your parents' names? 𝐀𝐦 and 𝐍𝐴𝐵 Midoriya. What do they look like? My mom looks exactly like me. My dad has my eyes, but his hair is a dark black color. I look like my mom more than my dad. Where did they meet up? Mom says they first met at college, but my dad swears that he saw my mother earlier in high school, so it's up for debate. Where did you go to high school? Izuku goes on answering question by question to the best of his abilities. For those he can't stand to answer, he tells 𝐲𝗏, and then the two of them move on. There's nothing wrong with that. No problems are created. Izuku answers until he feels tuckered out and doesn't even hear the questions anymore as he falls asleep in 𝐲𝗏's arms.